Everything you've been taught about the limitations of your mind is a lie. You are not a helpless human struggling through life. You are a soul, made in God's image, with unlimited creative power. Today, I will show you how to claim this birthright that has always been yours. My dear friend, I know why you're here. You feel it, don't you? That nagging sense that there's something more to life than what you're experiencing. Maybe you've tried everything: positive thinking, goal setting, working harder, but still feel like you're hitting invisible walls. You look around and see others who seem to effortlessly attract success, love, and happiness, while you struggle with the same patterns over and over. Let me tell you something that will change everything for you. The power you're seeking isn't outside of you. It's not in the next opportunity, the right person, or the perfect circumstances. The unlimited creative force of the universe lives within your own consciousness right now, waiting to be awakened. I've spent my entire life in communion with the divine, guiding thousands of souls to this same realization. What I'm about to share with you isn't philosophy or theory. It's the practical science of consciousness that has transformed every life it has touched, including my own. You see, when I was young, I too believed in limitations. I thought God was somewhere far away, that I was small and separate, that my mind could only do so much. But through deep meditation and divine grace, I discovered the most astounding truth. Your individual consciousness is connected to infinite intelligence itself. The frustration you feel when you can't break through to the next level of your life, that's your soul calling you home to your true power. The overwhelm when circumstances seem to control you rather than the other way around, that's because you've been using only the surface of your mind while the ocean of unlimited potential remains untouched. Today, that changes. Today, you learn to dive deep. Now, let me share with you a story that will illuminate everything I'm about to teach you. Several years ago, a railroad executive came to see me. This man had achieved everything society tells us brings happiness, wealth, position, recognition, yet he sat before me with hollow eyes and said, "Master, I feel empty inside. I work 18 hours a day, I make more money than I can spend, people respect me, but I go to bed each night feeling like I'm missing the point of being alive." I looked at this successful man and saw what I see in so many souls, someone who had mastered the external world but never discovered the infinite world within. I asked him a simple question: when you make your most important decisions, where do you look for guidance? He replied immediately, "I analyze the data, I consult experts, I think through every angle." "And how often," I continued, "do you sit in silence and listen to the wisdom that comes from beyond your thinking mind?" He stared at me blankly. "I don't understand what you mean." This brilliant man, who could orchestrate million-dollar deals, had never learned to access the unlimited intelligence that was his birthright as a soul made in God's image. I taught him something I'm going to teach you today. I showed him how to go beyond the surface chatter of his mind and connect with the deeper consciousness that knows all things. Within 3 months, his entire life transformed, not because his external circumstances changed so dramatically, but because he learned to live from his center of infinite power rather than from fear and limitation. He later told me, "Master, it's as if I was trying to light my house with a candle when there was a power station right in my basement the whole time." You see, my friend, this is exactly your situation right now. You have been given the same connection to infinite intelligence, but perhaps no one has shown you how to plug into it. But you might wonder, what exactly did he discover about his mind? Let me share with you another story that will make this crystal clear. Imagine a fisherman who goes to the same shallow cove every day, casting his net again and again but catching very few fish. Day after day, he grows more frustrated. He examines his net, thinking it must be broken. He studies his technique, wondering what he's doing wrong. He watches other fishermen and tries to copy their methods, but still, very few fish. One day, a wise old fisherman approaches him and says, "My friend, your net is perfect, your technique is fine, but you're fishing in 3 feet of water when the ocean depths are right behind you, teeming with infinite abundance." The young fisherman turns around and, for the first time, truly sees the vast ocean that was always there. This is precisely what happens with your mind, my dear friend. You've been fishing in the shallow waters of surface, thinking, analyzing, worrying, trying to figure everything out with your limited intellect when the infinite ocean of divine consciousness is right there, waiting to be explored. Most people use their minds like that fisherman, staying in the familiar shallows because they don't know how to navigate the depths. But here's what the wise old fisherman didn't tell the young man and what I'm about to tell you. The deeper you go into the ocean of consciousness, the more you realize something amazing. You are not separate from that ocean. You are not a little wave struggling on the surface. You are the entire ocean, expressing itself as a wave. This brings us to the practical question: how do you dive deeper? How do you access this unlimited power that I'm telling you is already yours? Before I give you the specific practices, let me share one more story, because understanding must come before technique, and this understanding changed my life forever. There was a time in my own spiritual journey when everything felt dark and dry. I had been meditating for years, studying sacred texts, following all the prescribed practices, yet I felt more separated from God than ever. I remember one particularly difficult night when I fell to my knees and cried out, "Where are you? Why do you feel so far away?" In that moment of complete surrender, something extraordinary happened. It wasn't a voice I heard or a vision I saw. It was a knowing that arose from the deepest part of my being. I am not far away. I am the very consciousness with which you are seeking me. In that instant, the entire search collapsed into realization. I was not a separate being trying to reach God. I was God's own consciousness, experiencing itself as Yogananda. My friend, this is the great secret I want you to understand before we go any further. You are not trying to gain power from somewhere else. You are learning to recognize the power that you already are. The unlimited creative intelligence of the universe is not foreign to you, it is your very essence. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," this is what he meant. When the Vedas declare, "Tat Twam Asi, thou art," that this is the truth they're pointing to. How this shifted everything for me was profound. Instead of seeking, I started simply being. Instead of asking God for things, I began to align my consciousness with divine will and watch how perfectly everything unfolded. Instead of trying to control outcomes through worry and mental effort, I learned to act from inspired knowing and let the infinite intelligence handle the details. Now let me share what I learned about how this power actually works, because understanding the mechanics will help you apply it in your daily life. The first great principle is this: consciousness is causal. What I mean by this is beautifully simple, yet revolutionarily powerful. Your state of consciousness, not your circumstances, not other people's actions, not random events, creates your experience of reality. Most people have this backwards. They think external events cause their internal states. I'm unhappy because my job is stressful. I'm worried because the economy is uncertain. I'm lonely because the right person hasn't come along. But the truth is the exact opposite. Your internal state of consciousness is broadcasting like a radio station, and you attract experiences that match that frequency. When you live in fear consciousness, you magnetize fearful situations. When you live in love consciousness, you attract loving experiences. When you live in abundance consciousness, prosperity flows naturally into your life. Now, I want to be very clear about something important. There are two kinds of mind operating in you right now. The first is what I call the ego mind. This is the surface level of thinking that most people identify with. It's constantly comparing, judging, worrying about the future, regretting the past. It believes in separation and limitation. It thinks you are just a physical body with a thinking brain, struggling to survive in a hostile world. But beneath this surface mind lies your soul consciousness, your direct connection to infinite intelligence. This deeper mind knows no limitations. It sees the unity behind all apparent diversity. It operates through love, wisdom, and creative power. It knows that you are an immortal soul, temporarily expressing through a physical form but never limited by it. Here's what changed everything for me and will change everything for you. You get to choose which mind you live from moment to moment. When you operate from ego mind, you feel small, separate, and powerless. When you operate from soul consciousness, you feel connected to unlimited creative potential. But how do you make this shift practically? This is where science and spirituality meet in the most beautiful way. Modern neuroscience has discovered that your thoughts, especially when charged with strong emotion, actually reshape your brain and create new neural pathways. But ancient yogic science knew this thousands of years ago. We understood that thoughts held with deep feeling become creative forces that shape your reality. When you combine a clear mental image with strong positive emotion and unwavering faith, you are not just thinking, you are creating. You are aligning your individual consciousness with the creative power of the universe itself. This is not wishful thinking or mere positive psychology. This is the fundamental law of manifestation that governs how reality works. The second great principle I want you to understand is what I call divine magnetism. You see, my friend, the universe operates on the principle of magnetic attraction. Like attracts like, but not in the superficial way most people think. It's not about forcing outcomes or manipulating circumstances. True divine magnetism comes from aligning your will with God's will, your desires with the cosmic plan for your highest good. Most people approach manifestation backwards. They decide what they want based on ego desires, more money, a better relationship, recognition, security, and then they try to use spiritual practices to force the universe to deliver these things. But this creates struggle and often disappointment because you're working against the natural flow of divine intelligence. True manifestation begins with asking a different question. What does life want to express through me? How can I be of service to the highest good? What gifts am I meant to share with the world? When you align with this deeper current of purpose, the universe moves heaven and earth to support you. Opportunities appear, the right people show up, resources flow effortlessly, because you're working with the cosmic will instead of against it. But here's what's beautiful about this approach. When you align with divine will, you don't lose your personal desires. You discover that your heart's deepest longings are actually God's will trying to express through you. The dreams that won't leave you alone, the visions that inspire you, the service you feel called to offer, these are not separate from divine will. They are divine will, personalized through your unique soul expression. The difference between ego desire and soul desire is this. Ego desires come from a sense of lack and create attachment to specific outcomes. Soul desires come from a sense of fullness and create openness to the highest good. When you operate from soul desire, you hold your goals lightly. You work toward them with dedication but without desperation. You trust that if something is truly aligned with your highest path, the universe will support it. And if it's not, something better is waiting. This brings us to the third principle that will revolutionize how you live. Learning to live from what I call the immortal center. Most people identify completely with their thoughts, emotions, and circumstances. When good things happen, they feel high. When challenges arise, they feel low. They ride the roller coaster of external events, never realizing there's a part of them that remains eternally peaceful and powerful regardless of what's happening around them. But you are not your thoughts, you are the consciousness that observes thoughts. You are not your emotions, you are the awareness that experiences emotions. You are not your circumstances, you are the eternal soul that moves through changing circumstances while remaining essentially unchanged. This observing consciousness, this eternal witness within you, is your immortal center. It is connected to infinite intelligence, unconditional love, and unlimited creative power. When you learn to live from this center, everything changes. Challenges become opportunities for growth. Setbacks become setups for comebacks. Difficult people become teachers who show you where you still need to develop patience and love. You respond to life from wisdom rather than reacting from fear. You make decisions from clarity rather than confusion. You create from power rather than struggling from powerlessness. Now, I can see you might be thinking, this all sounds wonderful, but how do I actually do this in my daily life? How do I access this power when I'm stuck in traffic, dealing with difficult people, or facing real problems that need practical solutions? This is exactly the right question, because understanding is beautiful, but transformation requires practice. Let me give you 3 simple but powerful practices that will help you unlock this hidden power in your mind and apply it immediately. These are not complex techniques that require years of training. They are practical tools you can use today to start experiencing the unlimited creative intelligence that is your birthright. The first practice I call the 5-minute power awakening, and you can do this every morning before you start your day. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably with your spine straight, not rigid, but upright like a tree reaching toward the sunday. Close your eyes and begin to breathe deeply and slowly. Here's the specific technique. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 8. Do this pattern 12 times. As you breathe, imagine that with each inhale, you're drawing in infinite intelligence and creative power. With each exhale, you're releasing all limitation, doubt, and fear. After the 12 breaths, sit in complete stillness for 3 minutes. Don't try to think about anything or solve any problems. Simply rest in the vast silence of your being. In this silence, you are touching the source of all power, all wisdom, all creative potential. You may not feel anything dramatic at first, and that's perfectly normal. But what's happening is profound. You're training your consciousness to recognize its connection to infinite intelligence. You're establishing a direct line of communication with the deepest wisdom within you. Before you open your eyes, ask this question silently. What does my soul want me to know today? Then listen without forcing an answer. Trust that the guidance you need will come, perhaps not as words but as a feeling, an inspiration, or simply as increased clarity and peace throughout your day. Use this technique before making any important decision, before facing any challenging situation, before beginning any creative project. You are literally plugging into the cosmic power station that I spoke of earlier. You are accessing the same unlimited intelligence that creates galaxies and grows flowers from tiny seeds. The second practice is divine magnetism in action, and this is how you align your daily goals and desires with the creative power of the universe. Every morning, after your 5-minute power awakening, take a few moments to visualize your day ahead, but do it in a very specific way. Instead of just thinking about what you need to accomplish, ask yourself, how can I be a channel for divine intelligence today? How can I serve the highest good in everything I do? Then visualize yourself moving through your day with wisdom, love, and creative power flowing through you. See yourself handling challenges with grace, making decisions from clarity, and being a blessing to everyone you encounter. Here's the key. Don't just visualize what you want to receive, but primarily visualize what you want to give. See yourself offering your unique gifts to the world. Feel the joy of being useful, of making a positive difference, of expressing your soul's purpose through whatever work you do. When you charge your goals with soul power rather than ego force, they become magnetic. The universe loves to support souls who want to serve. End this visualization by mentally offering everything to the divine. I offer all my actions today to you, O Spirit. Work through me, think through me, love through me. May everything I do be an expression of your infinite intelligence and love. This is not giving up your personal power, it's accessing unlimited power by aligning with the source of all power. The third practice is learning to live from the center moment to moment throughout your day, and this is perhaps the most transformative of all. You see, my friend, enlightenment is not a distant goal you reach after years of practice. It's available in every moment when you remember who you truly are. Here's how to do this practically. Several times throughout your day, pause for just a few seconds and ask yourself, who is aware right now? Not what are you thinking about, not what you're feeling, but who is aware of the thoughts and feelings. Rest your attention in that aware presence for just a moment. That awareness, that witnessing consciousness, is your immortal center. It's always here, always peaceful, always connected to infinite intelligence. When you're stressed, instead of getting lost in the stress, remember, I am not the stress. I am the consciousness observing the stress. When you're angry, remember, I am not the anger. I am the awareness experiencing anger. When you're worried, remember, I am not the worry. I am the peace that exists before, during, and after worry. This simple shift in identification changes everything. You stop being a victim of your thoughts and emotions and remember that you are the master of them. You stop being at the mercy of circumstances and remember that you are the eternal soul moving through temporary experiences. At the end of each day, spend a few minutes reviewing what happened, but do it from this witnessing consciousness. Ask yourself, how did I express my soul nature today? Where did I live from love rather than fear? What opportunities did I miss to express wisdom, compassion, or creative power? This isn't about judging yourself, but about consciously evolving. You're training yourself to live more and more from your divine nature. My dear friend, what we've explored today isn't theory, it's your birthright. You are not a limited human hoping for divine grace. You are divine consciousness expressing through human form. The power to transform your life, to live with joy and purpose, to be a blessing to others, this power lives within you now. Everything I've shared with you today comes down to one simple truth. You are not who you think you are. You are infinitely more. You are not separate from the creative intelligence that moves the stars and grows the flowers. You are not disconnected from the love that holds the entire universe together. You are not powerless in a world of random events. You are a soul, made in God's image, temporarily expressing through a human form but never limited by it. The practices I've given you are not just techniques, they are ways of remembering and embodying this truth. Every time you connect with the silence within, you're touching your infinite nature. Every time you align your will with divine will, you're accessing unlimited creative power. Every time you identify with the witnessing consciousness rather than with thoughts and emotions, you're living from your immortal center. But remember, my beloved friend, knowledge without practice is like a beautiful song that's never sung. You must apply these principles daily. You must make the choice, moment by moment, to live from your soul nature rather than from ego limitation. This is not always easy in a world that constantly tells you that you are small, separate, and powerless. But every time you choose to remember who you truly are, you not only transform your own life, but you help lift the consciousness of everyone around you. Repeat with me now, and let these words sink deep into your being. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the immortal soul. Divine intelligence flows through me now. I am one with the infinite creative power of the universe. In this truth, I am free. Feel the power of these words. They are not mere affirmations, they are statements of spiritual fact. The same consciousness that spoke through Jesus when he said, I and the Father are one, the same awareness that Buddha touched when he achieved enlightenment, the same divine intelligence that flows through every great soul who has ever lived. This is what you are. This is your true identity. This is the hidden power within your mind that I promise to reveal to you today. If this wisdom has touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you can receive more teachings that will help you live from this truth in practical ways. Please like this video if you felt the resonance of what we've shared together. Your engagement helps these teachings reach other souls who are ready for this remembering. And I especially want to hear from you in the comments below. Share your experience with these practices. Tell me about the moments when you touch that infinite consciousness within. Your sharing helps create a community of souls, supporting each other on the journey home to our true nature. Remember, we are all walking each other home to the recognition of what we've always been, but may have temporarily forgotten. You are not alone on this path. The same divine intelligence that is guiding you is guiding me, and together we are part of the great awakening that is happening on our planet right now. Until we meet again in the consciousness of our oneness, may you live in the joy of your infinite self. May you express the love, wisdom, and creative power that is your divine nature. May you be a blessing to everyone whose life you touch, and may you always remember the truth that sets you free. You are not a wave struggling on the surface of the ocean. You are the ocean itself, expressing as a wave. You are not a spark separate from the fire. You are the eternal flame of divine consciousness, temporarily focused through the beautiful prism of your individual soul. Blessings to you, my dear friend. The power was always within you. Now you know how to unlock it. But before we part, let me share with you some deeper truths that will help you navigate the journey ahead. Because awakening to your divine nature is not a destination, it's a way of living that deepens with each passing day. You see, my beloved friend, when you first begin to touch this infinite power within, your ego mind will try to convince you it's not real. It will whisper doubts. This is just imagination. This is too good to be true. Who are you to think you have divine power? This is perfectly natural. The ego mind has spent years believing in limitation, and it doesn't give up its old patterns easily. But I want you to understand something crucial. Doubt is not your enemy. Doubt is simply the ego's way of protecting what it thinks is real. When doubt arises, don't fight it. Instead, gently return to your practices. Return to the silence. Return to the witnessing consciousness. Remember that you are not the doubt, you are the awareness that observes doubt. In that remembering, doubt loses its power over you. Let me share with you another story that will help you understand this process more deeply. There was once a young woman who came to our ashram many years ago. She had read all the spiritual books, attended countless lectures, and could quote the scriptures beautifully. But when she sat with me, I could see the frustration in her eyes. Master, she said, I understand intellectually that I am divine consciousness, but I don't feel it. I still worry about money. I still get angry at my family. I still feel lonely sometimes. How can I claim to be one with God when I'm clearly still struggling with very human problems? I smiled at her honesty and said, My dear daughter, you are making a very common mistake. You think that awakening to your divine nature means you will never again experience human emotions or human challenges. But this is not what enlightenment means. Enlightenment means you recognize yourself as the consciousness that experiences all emotions and all challenges without being limited by them. I continued, a wave does not stop being part of the ocean when it encounters a rock. The wave may change form, it may splash and foam, but it never ceases to be ocean water. In the same way, you do not stop being divine consciousness when you encounter the rocks of human experience. You may feel anger, fear, or sadness, but you never cease to be the eternal soul that is temporarily experiencing these emotions. This understanding transformed her completely. Instead of trying to suppress her humanity, She learned to embrace it while remembering her divinity. When anger arose, she would feel the anger fully but not identify with it. She would say to herself, "I am the eternal soul experiencing anger right now." When fear came, she wouldn't deny it but would recognize, "I am the divine consciousness observing fear." This is what I call the dance of awakening, my friend. You are learning to be fully human and fully divine at the same time. You don't transcend your humanity by denying it, you transform it by seeing it through the eyes of your soul nature. Now, let me address something else that often confuses sincere seekers. You might wonder, if I'm already divine consciousness, why do I need to practice meditation? Why do I need to work on myself at all? This is a beautiful question that gets to the heart of the spiritual path. You see, you are already perfect in your essential nature. Your soul is already one with God, already connected to infinite intelligence, already filled with unlimited love. But this truth is covered over by layers of conditioning, beliefs, and habits that you've picked up throughout your life. These layers don't change your true nature, but they obscure your awareness of it. Think of it like this. The sun is always shining with perfect radiance, but sometimes clouds cover it from our view. The clouds don't diminish the sun's power, they simply block our perception of it. Your spiritual practices are like the wind that gently blows the clouds away, revealing the sun that was always there. Meditation doesn't create your divine nature, it reveals it. Self-inquiry doesn't give you unlimited intelligence, it removes the beliefs that make you think you're limited. Service to others doesn't make you loving it, dissolves the ego patterns that block your awareness of the love you already are. This understanding will save you from one of the greatest traps on the spiritual path, the trap of spiritual perfectionism. So many sincere souls torture themselves because they think they should be further along, more peaceful, more loving, more awakened than they currently are. But this very striving often becomes another form of ego activity. Instead, approach your spiritual development with what I call divine patience. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be in this moment for your highest learning and growth. Every challenge you face, every pattern you're working to transform, every moment of confusion or clarity, all of it is perfect guidance from your soul, leading you home to the recognition of what you've always been. Let me tell you about another profound realization that came to me during my years of deep spiritual practice. I discovered that there are actually 3 levels of divine power operating in your life, and understanding these levels will help you work more skillfully with the infinite intelligence within you. The first level is what I call personal power. This is the power you access when you align your individual will with divine will, when you use meditation and spiritual practices to improve your own life, health, relationships, and circumstances. This is beautiful and necessary. You are meant to live abundantly, joyfully, and purposefully. Taking care of your own spiritual development is not selfish, it's essential preparation for higher service. But there's a second level that opens as you mature spiritually, and this is interpersonal power. This is when you begin to realize that your spiritual development is not separate from the spiritual development of others. You start to understand that the same divine consciousness you're awakening to is also the true nature of every person you encounter. Your interactions become opportunities for mutual awakening. When someone is angry with you, instead of just protecting yourself or reacting defensively, you begin to see the hurt soul beneath the anger and respond with compassion. When someone is struggling, instead of just offering sympathy, you hold them in the awareness of their divine perfection and help call forth their highest potential. When someone is joyful, you celebrate not just their happiness but the divine light that is shining through them. This level of power transforms your relationships into spiritual practice. Your family becomes your ashram, your workplace becomes your temple. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to express love, wisdom, and divine intelligence. But there's a third level that represents the fullest flowering of spiritual awakening, and this is transpersonal power. This is when you realize that your individual enlightenment is part of a much larger awakening happening on our planet and throughout the cosmos. You begin to sense your role in the great work of helping consciousness evolve. At this level, you're not just working on your own spiritual development or even on healing your personal relationships. You're participating consciously in the healing and awakening of humanity itself. Your very presence becomes a blessing to the world. Your state of consciousness contributes to raising the vibration of the entire planet. This doesn't mean you need to become a teacher or start a spiritual organization, though some souls are called to that path. It means that whatever your work is in the world, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a business person, an artist, A healer, you do it with the consciousness that you are serving the divine plan for planetary awakening. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds overwhelming. How can I possibly live up to such a high calling? But remember, my dear friend, you don't create this power, you simply allow it to flow through you. You don't have to figure out how to heal the world, you just have to be willing to be a clear channel for the divine intelligence that already knows how to heal everything. Let me share with you a practice that will help you open to this deeper level of service. Every morning, after your 5-minute power awakening, spend a few moments expanding your awareness beyond your personal life. Visualize the entire planet surrounded in light. See all beings everywhere awakening to their divine nature. Feel yourself as part of this great tide of consciousness that is lifting all life to a higher level. Then offer yourself to this work. Divine Mother, use me today as an instrument of your love and wisdom. Whether through a smile, a kind word, a helping hand, or simply through maintaining a peaceful presence, let me be of service to the awakening of all souls. You don't need to know specifically how this will manifest. Trust that divine intelligence will work through you in perfect ways. This offering is not a burden, it's actually the greatest joy available to a human soul. When you align with the cosmic purpose of universal awakening, your individual life becomes filled with meaning and power beyond anything you could create through personal effort alone. But let me address something important here. Sometimes, sincere spiritual seekers make the mistake of thinking that caring about worldly things, success, relationships, health, financial security is somehow unspiritual. They think that if they're truly awakened, they should be detached from all material concerns and focused only on meditation and service. This is a misunderstanding that has caused much unnecessary suffering. The goal of spiritual life is not to escape the world, but to transform your relationship with it. You are not meant to be a soul floating in blissful detachment while your human life falls apart. You are meant to be a soul expressing divine intelligence through a successful, healthy, joyful human experience. When you truly understand your divine nature, you realize that taking excellent care of your body is honoring the temple of God. Building healthy, loving relationships is expressing divine love in form. Creating financial abundance is allowing divine prosperity to flow through you. Pursuing meaningful work is giving your unique gifts to the world. The difference is not in what you do, but in how you do it and why you do it. When you come from ego consciousness, you pursue these things from fear, lack, and attachment. You think your happiness depends on achieving specific outcomes. When you come from soul consciousness, you pursue these same things from love, abundance, and joyful service. You work toward goals while trusting that your deepest fulfillment comes from your connection to the divine, not from external achievements. This brings me to another crucial understanding about working with divine power in practical ways. Many people make the mistake of using spiritual practices like a cosmic vending machine. They meditate in order to get something they want. They visualize in order to manifest specific outcomes. They practice gratitude in order to attract more blessings. While these approaches can produce results, they miss the deeper purpose of spiritual practice. The true goal is not to get God to give you what you want, but to align yourself so completely with divine will that what you want and what God wants become the same thing. It's not about convincing the universe to serve your ego desires, but about becoming such a clear channel for divine intelligence that it can fulfill its purposes through you. When this alignment happens, something magical occurs. You stop struggling to make things happen and start allowing things to unfold. You stop trying to control outcomes and start trusting the perfect intelligence that orchestrates the movement of galaxies and the blooming of flowers. You stop working from desperation and start creating from inspiration. Let me give you a very practical example of how this works. Suppose you're facing a financial challenge. The ego approach would be to meditate on money, visualize abundance, and ask God to send you wealth. There's nothing wrong with this, but there's a more powerful approach. Instead, you would meditate to connect with divine intelligence and ask, how can I be of greater service? What gifts am I meant to share with the world? How can I contribute more value to others' lives? You trust that when you align with divine purpose, all material needs will be met as a natural byproduct of expressing your soul's calling. The difference is subtle but profound. In the first approach, you're trying to use spiritual power to get what you think you need. In the second approach, you're offering yourself as an instrument of divine will and trusting that everything you truly need will be provided as you fulfill your spiritual purpose. This second approach is not only more aligned with spiritual law, but it's also more effective practically. When you focus on how you can serve and contribute, You naturally develop skills, relationships, and opportunities that create sustainable abundance. When you focus only on getting, you often create temporary results that don't last because they're not rooted in genuine value creation. Now, let me share with you what I consider to be the most important secret for maintaining your connection to divine power in the midst of daily life. This secret has sustained me through decades of teaching, traveling, and dealing with all the practical challenges of human existence while never losing touch with the infinite consciousness that is our true nature. The secret is this: learn to live in what I call perpetual prayer. This doesn't mean constantly saying prayers or mantras, though those practices have their place. Perpetual prayer means maintaining a continuous awareness that every moment is a communion with the divine, every breath is a gift from spirit, every experience is an opportunity to express your soul nature. When you're washing dishes, you can do it as a meditation on the divine order that keeps the universe clean and harmonious. When you're driving to work, you can use the time to practice gratitude for the intelligence that created cars, roads, and the miraculous coordination that allows millions of people to travel safely. When you're talking with someone, you can remember that you're having a conversation between two expressions of the same divine consciousness. This practice transforms the most ordinary activities into spiritual communion. You're no longer waiting for special times of meditation to connect with God. You're recognizing God in every moment, every person, every situation. This is true devotion, not the occasional religious feeling, but the constant remembrance that all life is sacred, all beings are divine, all experiences are opportunities for spiritual growth. When you live this way, you naturally stay connected to the source of infinite power because you're not treating God as separate from your daily life. You're recognizing that the intelligence that moves your heart, breathes your lungs, and thinks your thoughts is the same intelligence that creates stars and governs the evolution of consciousness throughout the cosmos. This recognition fills you with constant wonder and gratitude. Instead of taking life for granted, you're amazed by the miracle of existence. Instead of feeling separate and alone, you feel intimately connected to all life. Instead of seeing challenges as problems, you see them as opportunities for the divine to express greater wisdom, love, and power through you. But I want to address something that often concerns sincere seekers. You might worry that if you become too spiritual, too connected to divine consciousness, you'll become impractical or unable to function effectively in the world. This concern comes from a misunderstanding about what spiritual awakening actually means. True spiritual development doesn't make you less capable in worldly affairs, it makes you more capable. When you're connected to infinite intelligence, you have access to solutions and insights that the limited ego mind could never discover. When you're rooted in divine love, you relate to people with a wisdom and compassion that creates harmony and cooperation. When you're aligned with cosmic purpose, you're guided to opportunities and resources that support your highest service. The most spiritually awakened people I have known have also been the most effective in whatever they chose to do. They were better parents because they could love their children with unconditional acceptance while guiding them with divine wisdom. They were more successful in business because they could see opportunities others missed and build enterprises that served genuine human needs. They were more creative in their art because they became channels for beauty and truth that touched people's souls. Spiritual awakening doesn't remove you from the world. It helps you engage with the world from your highest and most powerful self. You don't become less human, you become more fully human by expressing the divine potential that is your birthright. Let me now share with you some of the signs that indicate you are successfully awakening to the divine power within you, because it's important to recognize your progress on this path. Spiritual growth often happens so gradually that we don't notice the profound changes taking place in our consciousness and our lives. The first sign is what I call increasing equanimity. You notice that situations that used to upset you deeply now disturb you much less or not at all. You still feel emotions, but you're not controlled by them. You can feel anger without becoming angry, sadness without becoming depressed, fear without becoming paralyzed. You're developing the ability to experience all of life's emotions while maintaining your connection to the peace that exists at your core. The second sign is spontaneous compassion. You find yourself naturally feeling more understanding and forgiveness toward others, even those who have hurt you or whose behavior you don't approve of. This isn't forced kindness or spiritual pretense, it's a genuine recognition that everyone is doing their best from their current level of understanding, and that everyone is ultimately a soul learning and growing through human experience. The third sign is intuitive knowing. You start receiving guidance about decisions, relationships, and life direction that doesn't come from logical analysis but from a deeper knowing. You might suddenly understand the solution to a problem you've been struggling with, or feel clearly guided to call someone or go somewhere without knowing exactly why. This is divine intelligence beginning to flow more freely through your consciousness. The fourth sign is effortless service. You find yourself naturally wanting to help others, not from a sense of obligation or to earn spiritual merit, but because expressing love and wisdom feels like the most natural thing in the world. You realize that serving others is actually serving yourself, because at the deepest level, there is no separation between your well-being and the well-being of all life. The fifth sign is joyful presence. Even when dealing with challenges or facing uncertain circumstances, you maintain an underlying sense of joy and gratitude. This joy doesn't depend on external conditions, it comes from your growing recognition of the beauty and perfection of existence itself. You're happy not because everything in your life is perfect, but because you're remembering the perfection of your true nature. If you recognize some or all of these signs in yourself, celebrate them. They indicate that the practices I've shared with you are working, that you are successfully awakening to the divine power that has always been your essence. If you don't yet see these signs clearly, don't be discouraged. Every sincere effort you make in meditation, self-inquiry, and service is bringing you closer to this realization. Remember that spiritual awakening is not a performance or a competition. You don't need to prove anything to anyone or compare your progress to others. The divine is infinitely patient with your growth, and you can afford to be patient with yourself as well. What matters is that you keep practicing, keep remembering, keep choosing to align with your highest nature moment by moment. Now, as we near the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with one final practice that will help you integrate everything we've discussed and continue deepening your connection to divine power throughout your life. I call this the practice of sacred questioning, and it's perhaps the most powerful tool I can offer you for ongoing spiritual development. Instead of just accepting your thoughts, beliefs, and reactions automatically, begin questioning them from the perspective of your soul wisdom. When you feel upset about something, ask yourself, how would divine love respond to this situation? What would infinite intelligence want me to understand here? How can I use this challenge as an opportunity to express my highest nature? When you're making decisions, instead of just weighing pros and cons intellectually, ask, what choice would align me most closely with divine will? What decision would allow me to be of greatest service? What path would help me grow spiritually while fulfilling my earthly responsibilities? When you're relating to others, instead of reacting from old patterns, ask, how can I see the divine nature in this person? What would it look like to love them unconditionally while maintaining healthy boundaries? How can this interaction become an opportunity for mutual awakening? This practice of sacred questioning gradually transforms your entire approach to life. Instead of living reactively from conditioned patterns, you begin living responsively from conscious choice. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, you recognize yourself as a co-creator with divine intelligence. Instead of feeling separate and struggling, you remember your unity with all life and allow that recognition to guide your thoughts, words, and actions. The beautiful thing about this practice is that it works immediately. You don't need years of preparation or special qualifications. Right now, in this moment, you can begin asking these sacred questions and allowing divine intelligence to illumine your path. Every time you choose to respond from your soul wisdom rather than react from ego conditioning, you are expressing the unlimited power that is your true nature. My dear friend, what we've explored together today is not just information, it's a transmission of consciousness that can awaken you to the infinite power that has always been yours. You are not a small, limited being struggling through life hoping for occasional glimpses of the divine. You are divine consciousness itself, temporarily focused through the beautiful prism of your individual soul expression. The power to heal your life, to manifest your deepest dreams, to love unconditionally, to serve magnificently, to live with unshakable peace and joy, this power is not somewhere else waiting to be found. It is what you are, right now, in this very moment. It is closer to you than your breath, nearer to you than your thoughts, more intimate to you than your heartbeat. All the practices I've shared, all the understanding we've explored, all the techniques and principles, they are simply ways of remembering and expressing what has never actually been hidden. The kingdom of heaven that Jesus spoke of, the nirvana that Buddha achieved, the self-realization that all great souls have attained, this is not a distant goal, but your present reality, waiting only to be recognized and embodied. Every morning when you wake up, You have the opportunity to choose who you will be that day. Will you be the limited ego self that feels separate, fearful, and powerless? Or will you be the unlimited soul self that knows its oneness with all life and its access to infinite creative potential? This choice is always available to you in every moment, no matter what has happened in the past or what challenges you may be facing. The world needs you to make this choice consistently. Our planet is going through a time of great transformation, and every soul who awakens to their divine nature contributes to the healing and evolution of human consciousness. Your spiritual development is not just a personal journey, it's your contribution to the great work of planetary awakening that is happening in our time. So I encourage you, my beloved friend, to take the practices I've shared seriously. Make them part of your daily routine. Use them consistently, not just when you feel like it or when life is challenging, but as a way of maintaining your connection to the source of infinite power that you are. Remember the 5-minute power awakening every morning. Practice divine magnetism by aligning your goals with soul purpose. Live from the immortal center by identifying with witnessing consciousness rather than with thoughts and emotions. Ask sacred questions that invite divine intelligence to guide your choices. Maintain perpetual prayer by recognizing the sacred in every moment and every encounter. Most importantly, trust yourself. Trust the wisdom that arises in meditation. Trust the love that flows through your heart. Trust the guidance that comes when you ask sincerely for direction. You are not separate from divine intelligence. You are divine intelligence expressing through a unique individual form. The same power that creates and sustains the entire universe is the very essence of what you are. As you begin to live from this recognition more consistently, you will discover that miracles are not supernatural events but natural expressions of consciousness aligned with its source. You will find that what you once thought was impossible becomes not only possible but inevitable. You will realize that you are not here to struggle and suffer, but to express joy, love, wisdom, and creative power in whatever ways feel most authentic to your soul. And remember, you are not walking this path alone. The same divine consciousness that is awakening in you is awakening in countless souls around the world. We are all part of one great spiritual family, supporting each other in remembering our true nature and expressing our highest potential. When you commit to your own spiritual development, you are not only transforming your own life but contributing to the awakening of all humanity. I have shared with you today everything that took me decades to understand and embody. These are not just teachings but living truths that have the power to revolutionize your existence if you apply them with sincerity and dedication. The unlimited power within your mind is not a theory or a hope. It is the fundamental reality of what you are. Now it is up to you to make this wisdom alive in your daily experience. Start today. Start right now. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the infinite consciousness that is your true nature. Rest in that vastness. Let it fill you with peace, power, and purpose. Then open your eyes and begin expressing that divine nature through every thought, word, and action. The world is waiting for your gifts. Life is waiting for your full participation. The divine is waiting to express its infinite creativity through your unique soul expression. You have everything you need within you right now. The power was always yours. The wisdom was always available. The love was always flowing through your heart. Repeat with me now these words of truth, and let them become not just affirmations but recognitions of what has always been real. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the immortal soul. Divine intelligence flows through me now. I am one with the infinite creative power of the universe. In this truth, I am free. In this freedom, I serve. In this service, I find perfect joy. If this wisdom has touched your soul today, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you can continue receiving teachings that will support your awakening journey. Please like this video if these truths have resonated in your heart. Your engagement helps these teachings reach other souls who are ready for this, remembering. And most importantly, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Share your experiences with these practices. Tell me about the moments when you touch that infinite consciousness within. Describe the changes you notice as you begin living from your divine nature. Your sharing creates a community of awakening souls supporting each other on the path home to truth. Remember, my dear friend, we are all walking each other home to the recognition of what we have always been but may have temporarily forgotten. You are not alone on this journey. The same divine light that is guiding you is guiding me, and together we are part of the great tide of consciousness that is lifting all life to its highest potential. Until we meet again in the eternal presence that we are, may you live in the constant recognition of your divine nature. May you express the unlimited love, wisdom, and creative power that is your birthright. May you be a blessing to everyone whose life you touch, and may you always remember the truth that sets you free. You are not a wave struggling on the surface of the ocean, you are the entire ocean, expressing itself as a wave. You are not a spark separate from the fire, you are the eternal flame of divine consciousness, focused through the beautiful lens of your individual soul. You are not seeking God, you are God seeking to know itself through your eyes, love itself through your heart, and express itself through your life. The unlimited power within your mind that I promise to reveal to you today is nothing more and nothing less than the recognition of this truth. You are divine consciousness itself, temporarily dreaming that you are human, slowly awakening to remember who you have always been. But let me take you even deeper into this understanding, because there are layers upon layers of wisdom that will continue to unfold as you walk this path of awakening. The journey we are on together is not just about personal transformation, it is about understanding the very nature of reality itself and your role in the cosmic dance of consciousness. You see, my dear friend, when I speak of unlimited power within your mind, I am not referring merely to the ability to manifest better circumstances or even to achieve spiritual states of bliss. I am speaking of something far more profound and revolutionary, your capacity to participate consciously in the very process by which the universe creates itself moment by moment. Let me share with you a realization that came to me during one of my deepest meditations, an understanding so vast that it took me years to fully comprehend its implications. I was sitting in perfect stillness, having transcended all thoughts and sensations, when suddenly I became aware that what I had always considered to be my consciousness was actually the one universal consciousness, looking out through countless eyes, thinking through infinite minds, loving through every heart that has ever beaten. In that moment of cosmic awareness, I understood that every individual consciousness is like a unique facet of an infinite diamond. Each facet reflects the same light but from a slightly different angle, creating the beautiful diversity of perspectives that we call individual souls. Yet beneath this apparent multiplicity lies the one indivisible reality that is both the source and the substance of all existence. This recognition revolutionized my understanding of spiritual practice. I realized that when you meditate, you are not trying to connect with something outside yourself. You are removing the veils that hide your unity with all that island. When you practice compassion, you are not being kind to someone separate from you, you are loving yourself in another form. When you serve others, you are not sacrificing for strangers, you are caring for other expressions of your own deepest identity. This understanding leads us to what I consider the most practical and transformative teaching I can offer you. The realization that every moment of your life is an opportunity to participate consciously in the cosmic intelligence that governs all creation. You are not a passive observer of reality, you are an active co-creator with the divine consciousness that is the source of all existence. But how do you apply this understanding in practical ways? How do you live as a conscious co-creator rather than as someone who feels at the mercy of circumstances? Let me share with you what I call the 7 principles of cosmic co-creation. Teachings that will help you align with the fundamental laws by which consciousness creates reality. The first principle is conscious intention. Most people live their lives reactively, simply responding to whatever happens to them without ever taking conscious control of their creative power. But as a soul awakening to your divine nature, you can learn to live intentionally. This means becoming aware of the thoughts you think, the emotions you cultivate, the words you speak, and the actions you take, recognizing that all of these are creative forces that shape your reality. Every morning, before you engage with the world, take time to set clear intentions for how you want to show up that day. Not just what you want to accomplish, but who you want to be. Do you want to be a presence of peace in a chaotic world? Do you want to be a channel for divine love in your relationships? Do you want to be an instrument of healing wherever you go? When you set these soul-level intentions, you align your personal will with cosmic will, and the universe responds by providing opportunities for you to express these qualities. The second principle is vibrational alignment. Everything in the universe, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy, is vibrating at specific frequencies. Your thoughts, emotions, and states of consciousness also have vibrational qualities that attract experiences of similar frequencies. When you understand this law, you realize that your primary job is not to try to control external circumstances, but to maintain the vibrational states that naturally attract the experiences you desire. If you want to experience more love in your life, you must become a vibrational match for love by cultivating loving thoughts, feelings, and actions. If you want to experience abundance, you must align with the frequency of abundance by practicing gratitude, generosity, and trust in the universe's infinite supply. If you want to experience peace, you must embody peace by choosing harmonious responses to life's challenges. This is not positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is working with the fundamental law of resonance that governs how consciousness creates form. Like attracts like at the vibrational level, and when you consciously choose to embody the qualities you wish to experience, you become a magnet for those experiences. The third principle is surrendered action. This might seem paradoxical at first. How can you be a conscious co-creator while also surrendering? But this paradox contains one of the deepest secrets of effective manifestation. You must learn to act with complete dedication while holding your goals lightly, to work passionately toward your vision while remaining unattached to specific outcomes. Surrendered action means that you do everything within your power to move toward your highest calling, but you trust divine intelligence to handle the details of how and when your goals will manifest. You plant the seeds with care and attention, but you don't try to control how the garden grows. You offer your gifts to the world with full commitment, but you allow the universe to determine how those gifts will be received and utilized. This approach eliminates the stress and struggle that come from trying to force outcomes through willpower alone. Instead, you become a clear channel through which divine intelligence can work, and you often find that the results exceed anything you could have planned or imagined with your limited human perspective. The fourth principle is present moment awareness. The power to create is only available in the present moment, yet most people spend their lives either reliving the past or anticipating the future. When you learn to anchor your consciousness in the eternal now, you gain access to the infinite creative potential that exists in each moment. This doesn't mean you don't plan for the future or learn from the past. It means you recognize that all your power to think, feel, choose, and act exists only in this moment. When you're fully present, you can receive the guidance, inspiration, and energy that divine intelligence wants to give you right now. When you're lost in mental time travel, you miss the subtle promptings and opportunities that are constantly available to support your highest path. Practicing present moment awareness throughout your day transforms ordinary activities into spiritual experiences. When you eat with full attention, you're nourishing not just your body but your soul. When you listen to someone with complete presence, you're offering them the gift of divine attention. When you work with mindful focus, you're expressing divine intelligence through practical action. The fifth principle is divine timing. One of the most challenging aspects of spiritual development is learning to trust the perfect timing of the universe. Your ego wants everything to happen immediately, but divine intelligence operates according to a larger rhythm that takes into account countless factors you cannot see from your limited perspective. Learning to work with divine timing means releasing your attachment to when things should happen and focusing instead on being ready when opportunities arise. It means using periods of apparent delay or difficulty as times for inner preparation and growth. It means trusting that everything is unfolding in perfect order, even when you can't understand the larger pattern. When you align with divine timing, you stop struggling against the natural flow of life and start dancing with it. You discover that what seemed like obstacles were actually preparations, that what felt like setbacks were actually redirections towards something better, that what appeared to be delays were actually perfect timing for your soul's highest development. The sixth principle is loving service. The fastest way to activate your divine power is to focus it in service to others. When you genuinely care about contributing to the well-being and awakening of other souls, you tap into a source of energy and inspiration that goes far beyond what's available when you're focused solely on personal gain. Service doesn't necessarily mean dramatic acts of heroism or sacrifice. It can be as simple as bringing kindness to your daily interactions, offering encouragement to someone who's struggling, or using your talents to create something that brings beauty or value to the world. The key is that your motivation comes from love rather than from ego needs for recognition or reward. When you serve from genuine love, you discover that giving and receiving are one action. The joy you experience in helping others nourishes your own soul. The wisdom you share with others deepens your own understanding. The love you offer to others expands your own capacity to receive love. Service becomes not a sacrifice, but a celebration of the unity that connects all life. The seventh principle is continuous gratitude. Gratitude is not just a nice feeling or a spiritual practice, it's a powerful creative force that aligns you with the abundance of the universe. When you focus on appreciating what is already present in your life, you create a vibrational field that attracts more experiences worthy of appreciation. But true gratitude goes deeper than just being thankful for good things that happen to you. It involves recognizing the divine intelligence and love that permeate every aspect of existence. You can be grateful for challenges because they help you grow stronger. You can appreciate difficult people because they teach you patience and compassion. You can even find gratitude for losses and disappointments because they often redirect you towards something more aligned with your soul's true path. Living in continuous gratitude transforms your entire relationship with life. Instead of focusing on what's missing or wrong, you develop eyes that see the beauty, perfection, and grace that are always present. This shift in perception is itself a form of divine power, because how you see reality largely determines what reality you experience. Now, my dear friend, let me share with you how these 7 principles work together in practical application. Imagine you're facing a significant challenge in your life, perhaps a health issue, a relationship conflict, or a financial difficulty. The old way of approaching such situations would be to worry, analyze endlessly, and try to control outcomes through mental effort and emotional struggle. But as someone awakening to your divine power, you can respond very differently. First, you would set a conscious intention to use this challenge as an opportunity for spiritual growth and service. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim, you would recognize yourself as a soul having an experience that can deepen your compassion and wisdom. Next, you would focus on aligning vibrationally with the qualities you want to experience: peace, trust, love, wisdom, rather than getting caught up in the vibrations of fear, anger, or desperation. You would ask yourself, how would divine love respond to this situation? What would infinite wisdom want me to understand here? Then you would take surrendered action, doing everything within your power to address the situation while trusting divine intelligence to orchestrate the perfect resolution. You would research solutions, seek appropriate help, and take responsible steps, but without the anxious attachment that comes from thinking you have to figure everything out with your limited perspective. Throughout the process, you would maintain present moment awareness, staying grounded in the peace and power that are always available right now, rather than getting lost in mental stories about what might happen in the future. You would trust divine timing, understanding that the resolution will come at exactly the right moment for your highest good and learning. You would look for ways to serve others even in the midst of your own challenge, perhaps by offering support to someone facing a similar difficulty or by using your experience to develop greater empathy and wisdom. And you would maintain continuous gratitude, appreciating the opportunity for growth, the support you receive, and the love that surrounds you even in difficult times. When you approach challenges this way, something miraculous happens. Solutions appear that you never could have imagined. Resources show up from unexpected sources. People offer help at exactly the right moment. What seemed like a problem transforms into a doorway to greater understanding, strength, and service. This is not magic. This is the natural result of aligning your consciousness with the laws that govern how reality works. When you operate as a conscious co-creator rather than as a victim of circumstances, you discover that you have far more power to influence your experience than you ever imagined. But let me address something important here. As you begin to work with these principles and experience their power in your life, you may be tempted to use them primarily for personal benefit to get what you want, to solve your problems, to make your life more comfortable and successful. This is a natural starting point, and there's nothing wrong with using spiritual principles to improve your circumstances. However, I want to prepare you for a beautiful transformation that happens as you mature spiritually. You will gradually discover that your deepest satisfaction doesn't come from getting what you thought you wanted, but from becoming who you were meant to be. You'll find that serving the highest good of all brings you more joy than pursuing personal goals ever could. You'll realize that being a clear channel for divine love and wisdom is more fulfilling than any external achievement. This shift in motivation is not a loss, it's a profound gain. You don't lose your individuality or your legitimate human desires. Instead, you discover that your truest individual expression aligns perfectly with the cosmic plan for universal awakening. Your personal happiness becomes inseparable from the happiness of all beings. Your success becomes meaningful only as it contributes to the greater good. When this transformation occurs, you experience what I call the ultimate paradox of spiritual life. The more you let go of trying to get what you want, the more you receive everything you truly need. The more you focus on giving rather than receiving, the more abundance flows into your life. The more you surrender your personal will to divine will, the more your deepest desires are fulfilled in ways that exceed your wildest dreams. This paradox points to one of the most profound truths about the nature of reality. There is ultimately no separation between your highest good and the highest good of all existence. What serves your soul's deepest purpose automatically serves the evolution of consciousness itself. What brings you the greatest joy naturally contributes to the joy of all life. Understanding this truth resolves many of the conflicts that spiritual seekers often experience. You don't have to choose between caring for yourself and caring for others. True self-care and service to others are the same activity. You don't have to choose between spiritual development and worldly success. When your worldly activities express your spiritual nature, they become forms of worship and service. You don't have to choose between enjoying life and being detached from outcomes. When you understand that all experiences are opportunities for spiritual growth, you can embrace them fully while holding them lightly. You don't have to choose between being human and being divine. You are meant to be fully both, expressing your infinite soul nature through your beautiful human personality and experience. This integration of human and divine, personal and universal, temporal and eternal, is what I call the middle path of awakening. You're not trying to escape your humanity but to transform it through the recognition of your divinity. You're not trying to transcend the world but to see it through enlightened eyes. You're not trying to eliminate desires but to align them with your soul's highest purpose. Walking this middle path requires what I call spiritual maturity, the wisdom to know when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to engage and when to withdraw. This wisdom doesn't come from following rigid rules, but from developing sensitivity to the subtle guidance of divine intelligence within you. Let me share with you how to cultivate this spiritual sensitivity through what I call the practice of inner listening. Throughout your day, especially before making important decisions or entering challenging situations, take a moment to become still and ask, what is the highest response here? What would love do? How can I serve the greatest good in this moment? Then listen not just with your mind, but with your whole being. The guidance may come as a subtle feeling, a sudden knowing, an inspiration, or simply as increased clarity about what feels right. Trust this inner guidance even when it doesn't make logical sense, because divine intelligence often operates beyond the limited reasoning of the ego mind. The more you practice inner listening, the stronger this connection becomes. You begin to live from a state of continuous communion with the source of all wisdom. Decisions become easier because you're not trying to figure everything out with your limited perspective. You're allowing infinite intelligence to guide you. Relationships become more harmonious because you're responding from wisdom rather than reacting from ego patterns. This inner guidance is always available to you, but it requires what I call sacred silence to hear it clearly. In our noisy, fast-paced world, most people have lost touch with the subtle voice of divine wisdom because they never create space for it to be heard. But when you make regular periods of silence and stillness a non-negotiable part of your daily routine, you maintain your connection to the source of all power and wisdom. Sacred silence doesn't require hours of formal meditation, though deeper practices certainly have their place. Even a few minutes of conscious stillness throughout your day can keep you connected to your divine nature. When you wake up, before you check your phone or begin planning your day, spend a few minutes in grateful silence, acknowledging the miracle of consciousness itself. Before meals, take a moment to appreciate not just the food but the incredible intelligence that transforms simple nutrients into the complex energy that sustains your life. Before important conversations, pause in silence and ask for the wisdom to speak and listen from love. Before sleep, review your day with gratitude and set the intention to continue growing in wisdom and service. These moments of sacred silence are like tuning a musical instrument. They help you stay aligned with the cosmic harmony that is your true nature. They remind you that beneath all the activities and concerns of daily life, there is a vast peace and power that is always accessible to you. As you continue developing this connection to divine intelligence, you'll begin to notice something wonderful happening. Your entire life starts to flow with greater ease and grace. Synchronicities become more frequent. The right people show up at the perfect time. Resources appear just when you need them. Obstacles either dissolve or transform into stepping stones. This is not coincidence, it's the natural result of aligning your consciousness with the cosmic intelligence that orchestrates all of existence. When you stop trying to force outcomes through mental effort and start allowing divine wisdom to guide your actions, you tap into a power source that is infinitely more effective than anything your individual ego could accomplish. But I want to prepare you for something important as you develop this alignment with divine flow. Sometimes the guidance you receive will challenge your preconceived ideas about what should happen or how things should unfold. Divine intelligence operates from a much larger perspective than your human personality can grasp, and what serves your soul's highest development may not always match what your ego thinks it wants. For example, you might be guided to leave a comfortable but unfulfilling job even though you don't yet see how you'll support yourself. You might feel called to forgive someone even though your ego insists they don't deserve it. You might be inspired to take on a service project even though you don't feel qualified or prepared. These moments of spiritual guidance often require what I call divine courage, the willingness to trust the wisdom of your soul even when you can't understand the larger plan with your mind. This courage develops gradually as you have repeated experiences of following inner guidance and seeing how perfectly things work out, even in ways you never could have anticipated. Each time you choose to trust divine guidance over ego resistance, you strengthen your faith in the intelligence that governs all creation. You discover experientially that you are not alone in this journey, that there is a loving cosmic intelligence that knows exactly what you need for your highest growth and service, and that this intelligence is always working to support your soul's deepest purposes. This experiential faith is very different from blind belief or wishful thinking. It's based on direct personal experience of how divine intelligence operates in your life. It's the unshakable knowing that comes from repeatedly witnessing the perfect wisdom with which the universe orchestrates events for the highest good of all concerned. As this faith deepens, you enter what I call the state of divine trust, a profound relaxation into the understanding that no matter what appears to be happening in your life, everything is ultimately working for your spiritual development and service. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop taking appropriate action. It means you take action from inspiration rather than desperation, from clarity rather than confusion, from love rather than fear. Living in divine trust transforms your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of anxiety about the unknown future, you feel excitement about the unlimited possibilities that divine intelligence might unfold through your life. Instead of fear about potential challenges, you feel confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes with wisdom and grace. Instead of worry about whether you're on the right path, you trust that every step you take with sincere intention is perfect for your soul's journey. This trust also transforms your relationship with other people. When you truly understand that everyone is a soul having a human experience, guided by the same divine intelligence that guides you, you can release the need to control or change others. You can love people exactly as they are, while holding space for their highest potential to emerge. You can serve without attachment to how your service is received or utilized. One of the most beautiful aspects of developing divine trust is that it allows you to embrace what I call the sacred imperfection of human experience. You realize that you don't need to be spiritually perfect to be divinely loved and guided. You don't need to eliminate all your human quirks and challenges to access unlimited power. You don't need to achieve some ideal state of consciousness to serve the highest good. Your humanity, with all its apparent flaws and limitations, is not an obstacle to your divinity. It's the perfect vehicle through which your divine nature can express itself in unique and beautiful ways. Your personality traits, your life experiences, even your struggles and mistakes, all become instruments through which divine intelligence can touch and serve the world. This understanding brings tremendous relief and freedom. You can stop trying to be someone other than who you are and start celebrating the unique expression of divine consciousness that you represent. You can stop judging yourself for not being further along spiritually and start appreciating the perfect timing of your awakening process. When you embrace your sacred imperfection, you also become more compassionate toward others who are struggling with their own human challenges. You realize that everyone is doing their best from their current level of understanding, and that judgment serves no purpose except to create separation and suffering. This compassionate understanding naturally leads to what I call unconditional service, the willingness to help and support others without requiring them to be different than they are. You serve not because people deserve it or have earned it, but because serving is the natural expression of divine love flowing through an awakened heart. Unconditional service doesn't mean you become a doormat or allow others to take advantage of your kindness. True service sometimes requires setting healthy boundaries, speaking difficult truths, or refusing to enable destructive behavior. But whatever action you take comes from love rather than judgment, from wisdom rather than reaction, from a desire to support others' highest good rather than to punish or control them. As you mature in this understanding, you begin to see every interaction as an opportunity for mutual awakening. When someone is angry with you, instead of defending yourself or attacking back, you can ask, what does this person's soul need right now? How can I respond in a way that serves their highest good as well as my own? When someone is suffering, instead of just offering sympathy or trying to fix their problems, you can hold them in the awareness of their divine perfection while providing whatever practical support is appropriate. When someone is joyful, instead of comparing their happiness to your own situation, you can celebrate the divine light that is shining through them. This approach to relationships transforms not only your interactions with others, but your entire experience of being human. You stop feeling isolated and separate and start experiencing the profound interconnectedness that is the true nature of existence. You realize that serving others is actually serving yourself, because at the deepest level, there is no other, there is only the one divine consciousness expressing itself through countless unique forms. This recognition of unity and diversity is perhaps the most transformative realization available to human consciousness. It resolves the apparent contradiction between self-care and service to others. It eliminates the competition and comparison that cause so much suffering in human relationships. It reveals that your deepest fulfillment comes not from getting what you want, but from expressing who you truly are. When you live from this recognition of unity, every action becomes a form of worship, every relationship becomes a spiritual practice, every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth, and every moment becomes a celebration of the divine consciousness that is the source and substance of all existence. My beloved friend, we have journeyed together today through the deepest teachings I can offer about the unlimited power within your mind. We have explored not just techniques for personal improvement, but the fundamental principles that govern how consciousness creates reality. We have touched not just spiritual philosophy, but practical wisdom that can transform every aspect of your human experience. But remember, understanding these teachings intellectually is only the beginning. The real transformation comes through consistent application of these principles in your daily life. Every day, you have countless opportunities to choose love over fear, wisdom over reaction, service over selfishness, trust over control, presence over distraction, gratitude over complaint. Each time you make these higher choices, you strengthen your connection to the divine power that is your true nature. Each time you align your thoughts, words, and actions with your soul's wisdom, you become a clearer channel for the infinite intelligence that seeks to express itself through your unique personality and circumstances. This is not a journey that you complete once and then you're finished. It's an ongoing dance of awakening that deepens and expands throughout your entire human experience. There are always new levels of understanding to explore, new ways to express your divine nature, new opportunities to serve the evolution of consciousness. The power within your mind that we have explored today is not separate from you, it is you. It's not something you have to earn or achieve, it's something you already are. It's not something that might become available to you in the future, it's available right now, in this very moment, waiting only to be recognized and expressed. You are not a small, limited human being hoping someday to touch the divine. You are divine consciousness itself, expressing through the beautiful vehicle of your human personality and experience. You are not seeking enlightenment, you are enlightenment, gradually awakening to its own nature. You are not trying to find God, you are God, discovering itself through your eyes, loving itself through your heart, serving itself through your actions. This is the ultimate truth that all the practices point to, that all the teachings support, that all the spiritual traditions have attempted to convey in their own unique ways. You are that which you seek. You are the love you long to receive. You are the peace you hope to find. You are the power you wish to access. You are the wisdom you desire to possess. The dream is ending, my beloved friend. The remembering has begun. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to the infinite power that you are. Welcome home to the love, joy, and freedom that is your eternal nature. And as you continue on this beautiful journey of awakening, remember that you are not walking alone. Every soul who has ever lived, and every soul who will ever live, is part of this same cosmic awakening. We are all expressions of the one divine consciousness, temporarily appearing as separate individuals but eternally united in our deepest essence. When you serve your own awakening, you serve the awakening of all humanity. When you express your divine nature, you help create a world that reflects the beauty, wisdom, and love that is the true nature of existence. When you live from the unlimited power within your mind, you become part of the solution to every problem that humanity faces. The world needs your awakening. The planet needs your service. The cosmic plan of evolution needs your unique contribution. You are not here by accident, you are here by divine appointment, carrying gifts that only you can offer, holding a piece of the puzzle that only you can contribute to the great work of planetary transformation. So rise up into the fullness of who you are. Step into the power that has always been yours. Embrace the love that you have always been. Express the wisdom that is your birthright. Serve with the joy that comes from knowing you are fulfilling your soul's deepest purpose. The unlimited power within your mind is not just personal potential, it's cosmic responsibility. You have been given access to the creative force of the universe itself, and with that access comes the joyful obligation to use it in service of the highest good for all life. Blessings upon blessings to you, now and always. The journey continues, and it is more beautiful than you can possibly imagine. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Trust the divine intelligence that has brought you to this moment of awakening. And most of all, trust the love that you are, for it will never lead you astray. You are infinite consciousness, temporarily focused through the beautiful prism of your individual soul expression. Shine your light brightly, dear friend. The world is waiting for your illumination. Most people fight against the natural flow of the universe every single day and wonder why life feels like swimming upstream. But there's a sacred window between 4 and 6 a.m. where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds is thinnest. For 21 days, I lived in this window, and it completely transformed my relationship with reality itself. What I discovered will challenge everything you believe about how life works. In the next 45 minutes, you'll discover the exact spiritual science behind early morning practice, why yogis call it Brahma Muhurta, the time of Brahma, when divine consciousness flows most freely. You'll learn the 7 stages of transformation that occur when you consistently wake at 4 a.m., and I'll guide you through the specific practices that turn this time into a portal for manifestation and spiritual awakening. Most importantly, you'll understand why this isn't just about waking up early. It's about synchronizing your consciousness with the cosmic intelligence that governs all creation. I know what you're thinking. Yogananda, I can barely wake up at 7 a.m. How am I supposed to wake at 4? I understand. For years, I struggled with inconsistent spiritual practice, wondering why my meditations felt scattered, why my prayers seemed to disappear into emptiness. I was fighting against the natural order instead of flowing with it. But ancient wisdom teaches us that there are optimal times for spiritual communion, just as there are optimal times for planting seeds or harvesting grain. The early morning hours aren't just quiet, they're magnetically charged with spiritual potential. Today's journey has 6 transformative stages. First, I'll reveal the spiritual science of Brahma Muhurta and why consciousness operates differently in these sacred hours. Then we'll explore the 7-day cycles of transformation. What happens in your first week, second week, and third week as your biorhythm aligns with cosmic rhythm. We'll dive deep into the specific practices that turn early morning into a spiritual laboratory, breath work, meditation techniques, and the science of intention, setting when the mind is most receptive. I'll share the remarkable synchronicities that began appearing in my life, and more importantly, the inner changes that made them possible. Finally, we'll discuss how to sustain this practice beyond 21 days and integrate it into a life of continuous spiritual unfoldment. But here's what surprised me most. The real transformation wasn't what happened during those early morning hours, but how those hours began influencing every moment of my day. Now, here's something that most spiritual teachers won't tell you because, frankly, they don't understand it themselves. There's actual science behind why 4 a.m. feels different than any other time of day. And I'm not talking about some new age fluff here. I'm talking about measurable, observable phenomena that ancient yogis discovered thousands of years before we had instruments to prove them right. Think about this for a moment. Every great spiritual master throughout history, Buddha, Christ, Mohammed, the ancient rishis of India, they all chose the early morning hours for their deepest communion with the divine. That's not a coincidence. They weren't just early risers trying to beat traffic. They understood something about the nature of consciousness itself that we're only beginning to rediscover. The ancient Vedic texts call this time Brahma Muhurta, literally, the time of Brahma, the time of the Creator. But here's what's fascinating. Modern neuroscience is now proving what these ancient sages knew intuitively. Between 4 and 6 a.m., your brain operates in a completely different state than any other time of day. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for higher consciousness and spiritual awareness, is most receptive during these hours. Your default mode network, that constant chatter of thoughts that usually drowns out deeper wisdom, is naturally quieter. But it goes even deeper than brain chemistry. The Earth itself has electromagnetic rhythms, what scientists call the Schumann resonance. It's like the planet's heartbeat, and it peaks during the early morning hours. Your nervous system naturally synchronizes with these frequencies when you're awake and receptive during this time. It's as if the Earth is broadcasting on a spiritual frequency, and most people sleep right through it. I remember the first time I truly understood this. It was day 3 of my 21-day experiment. I'd been struggling to wake up, dragging myself out of bed at 4 a.m., feeling groggy and resistant. But that third morning, something shifted. As I sat in meditation, I felt this presence. It's hard to describe, but it was as if the very air around me was alive with intelligence. The silence wasn't empty. It was full, pregnant with possibility. Later, I learned that this wasn't just my imagination. The ancient yogis mapped out the subtle energy patterns of the day with incredible precision. They discovered that prana, life force energy, flows differently throughout the 24-hour cycle. Just as the tide has high and low points, cosmic energy has its own rhythms. And 4 to 6 a.m. is the spiritual high tide. Here's where it gets really interesting though. Your pineal gland, what mystics call the third eye, produces its highest levels of melatonin during the hours just before dawn. Now, melatonin isn't just a sleep hormone. Recent research shows it's also a powerful antioxidant that protects your brain and enhances spiritual perception. When you wake up naturally during this peak production time and engage in spiritual practice, you're literally bathing your consciousness in the biochemistry of transcendence. But the ancient sages knew something else that modern science is just catching up to. They understood that consciousness isn't produced by the brain, it's received by the brain, like a radio picking up signals. And just like radio waves travel better at certain times of day due to atmospheric conditions, spiritual consciousness transmits more clearly during Brahma Muhurta. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to have a conversation with someone across a crowded, noisy restaurant. You can barely hear each other, right? But take that same conversation outside to a quiet garden at dawn, and suddenly every word is crystal clear. That's what happens when you meditate during the sacred hours. The noise of the world is at its minimum, so the subtle voice of divine guidance can finally get through. The electromagnetic pollution from our modern world, Wi-Fi signals, cell towers, electrical grids, all of this creates a kind of static that interferes with subtle perception. But during the early morning hours, much of this interference naturally diminishes. It's like the universe gives you a clean channel to tune into higher wisdom. Now, you might be thinking, Yogananda, this sounds too good to be true. If it's really this powerful, why isn't everyone doing it? And that's exactly the right question. Because here's the thing. Most people are swimming against the current of their own biology and missing the cosmic rhythm entirely. What I'm about to share might seem impossible at first, but once you understand how transformation actually works, you'll see why 21 days is the perfect container for complete life change. There are 2 types of people attempting spiritual practice right now. One group tries to force transformation through willpower and discipline, fighting against their natural rhythms and wondering why progress feels so difficult. The other group understands something profound about how consciousness evolves. The difference? They work with the natural cycles of change instead of against them. Getting this wrong means you'll struggle for years, starting and stopping spiritual practices, never quite breaking through to genuine transformation. But understand these 3 waves of change, and you'll ride the natural current of evolution straight into a completely new relationship with reality. It all comes down to the law of progressive unfoldment. Just as a seed doesn't become a tree overnight, consciousness doesn't transform instantly. It moves in predictable waves, each with its own characteristics and challenges. The ancient yogis discovered that human consciousness operates on 7-day cycles, and 3 cycles, 21 days, is exactly what's needed for a fundamental shift in awareness. Let me take you through what actually happens during each wave, because understanding this will help you navigate the journey with confidence instead of confusion. Week 1, the breaking point. Days 1 through 7 are what I call the breaking of the chains. This is where most people give up, because they don't understand what's really happening. Your ego mind is going to resist this practice with everything it's got. It's been running your life according to old patterns for years, maybe decades, and suddenly you're asking it to operate completely differently. On day 1 of my experiment, the alarm went off at 4 a.m. and I literally felt angry, Not just tired, angry. My mind immediately started generating excuses. This is ridiculous. You need your sleep. You can meditate later in the day. I almost turned off the alarm and went back to bed. But something deeper in me knew this resistance was exactly what I needed to push through. By day 3, the physical resistance had shifted into emotional turbulence. Old fears and anxieties started surfacing during my morning meditation. Memories I'd forgotten about came flooding back. It was as if waking up early was stirring up all the sediment that had settled at the bottom of my consciousness. I later learned this is completely normal. When you change your relationship with time and consciousness, everything that's been suppressed starts coming to the surface to be healed. Day 5 was the crisis point. I woke up feeling exhausted, my mind was scattered, and I seriously considered abandoning the whole experiment. This is where most people quit. They think something's wrong, that the practice isn't working. But here's what I discovered. This breakdown is actually the breakthrough beginning to happen. Your old patterns are fighting for survival, but they're already losing their grip on you. The turning point came on day 7. I woke up naturally at 3:50 a.m., 2 minutes before my alarm. My body had started adjusting to the new rhythm. More importantly, as I sat in meditation that morning, I felt a sense of victory. Not victory over anything external, but victory over the part of myself that had been keeping me small and unconscious. I realized I had just proven to myself that I could do something most people consider impossible. Week 2, the momentum wave. Days 8 through 14 are completely different. If week 1 is about breaking through resistance, week 2 is about building momentum. Your nervous system has started adapting to the new schedule. Your circadian rhythms are shifting. Most importantly, you're beginning to experience the actual benefits of the practice instead of just fighting to maintain it. This is when the magic starts happening. On day 9, I had the clearest meditation of my life up to that point. My mind wasn't fighting me anymore, it was actually cooperating. Thoughts would arise and dissolve naturally without pulling me into mental stories. I touched a level of stillness I'd only read about in spiritual books. By day 11, I noticed something remarkable happening in my daily life. Situations that would normally stress me out felt manageable. I was responding to challenges from a place of centeredness instead of reactivity. It was as if those morning hours of communion with divine consciousness were creating a foundation of peace that nothing could shake. Day 13 was when the synchronicities started. I'd been contemplating a particular life decision during my morning meditation, not trying to figure it out but just holding it in awareness. That afternoon, I ran into an old friend who, completely out of the blue, offered me exactly the opportunity I'd been considering. Coincidence? Maybe. But this kind of coincidence started happening daily. The second week is also when your intuition becomes noticeably sharper. Dreams become more vivid and meaningful. You start receiving insights about situations in your life that you couldn't figure out through thinking alone. It's as if you've tuned into a frequency of wisdom that was always there, but previously inaccessible. Week 3. Integration and transcendence. Days 15 through 21 represent the integration wave, where temporary practice becomes permanent transformation. Your new rhythm isn't something you're doing anymore, it's something you are. Waking at 4 a.m. stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like coming home. This is when the really profound shifts happen. During my 3rd week, I began experiencing what mystics call witness consciousness throughout the day. Instead of being completely identified with my thoughts and emotions, I could observe them from a place of detached awareness. Problems didn't disappear, but my relationship with problems completely transformed. By day 17, people started commenting on how different I seemed. "You look peaceful," friends would say. "There's something calmer about you." I wasn't trying to appear any particular way. The inner transformation was naturally expressing itself outwardly. Day 19 brought what I can only describe as a direct experience of cosmic consciousness. During my morning meditation, the boundaries between me and everything else dissolved. For about 20 minutes, I experienced myself as pure awareness, connected to all life, held by infinite love, completely at peace. It wasn't a dramatic altered state. It was like remembering something I'd always known but temporarily forgotten. The most significant change by day 21 wasn't any single experience, but a fundamental shift in how I move through life. The anxious urgency that had characterized so much of my existence was replaced by what I can only call divine timing. I trusted that everything was unfolding perfectly, even when I couldn't see the bigger picture. But here's what really surprised me about the 21-day cycle. It's not that you're a completely different person after 3 weeks. It's that you've remembered who you've always been beneath all the conditioning and unconscious patterns. The practice doesn't create transformation. It removes the obstacles to the transformation that's always trying to happen naturally. Now, understanding these waves is crucial, but knowing what to actually do during those sacred morning hours is equally important. Because it's not enough to just wake up early. You need specific practices that align with the unique opportunities this time offers. This next part changed everything for me, and it's going to change everything for you too. Most people think that waking up at 4 a.m. is the hard part, but actually, that's just the beginning. What you do during those sacred hours determines whether you'll experience genuine transformation or just become an early riser who meditates. There are 2 types of spiritual practitioners attempting morning routines right now. One group treats their early hours like a spiritual checklist. They might meditate for 10 minutes, do some breathing exercises, maybe read something inspirational, and then consider their spiritual practice complete for the day. The other group understands something profound about how consciousness works during Brahma Muhurta and uses specific techniques designed to maximize this unique window of opportunity. The difference? The second group experiences transformation that seems almost miraculous to outside observers. Getting this wrong means you'll wake up early for weeks or months, go through the motions of spiritual practice, but never quite break through to the deeper levels of consciousness that make this entire journey worthwhile. But understand these 4 pillars, and those 2 hours become a portal into dimensions of awareness you never knew existed. It all comes down to working with consciousness when it's most malleable, instead of trying to force spiritual experiences during suboptimal times. Think of it like this. You could try to shape clay after it's been fired in a kiln, but you're going to struggle and probably break something. Or you can work with the clay when it's soft and receptive, creating beautiful forms with ease and grace. Consciousness during Brahma Muhurta is like that soft clay, infinitely more workable than at any other time of day. First pillar, sacred preparation, honoring the temple. The first pillar is what I call sacred preparation. And most people completely skip this step. They roll out of bed, maybe splash some water on their face, and jump straight into meditation, wondering why their practice feels scattered and ineffective. But the ancient traditions understood that how you prepare for spiritual practice is as important as the practice itself. I learned this lesson on day 4 of my experiment. I'd been struggling with restlessness during my morning meditations, my mind jumping from thought to thought like a monkey swinging through trees. Then I remembered something I'd read about the preparation rituals in ancient temples. The priests didn't just show up and start praying. They had elaborate purification ceremonies that gradually shifted their consciousness from the mundane to the sacred. So I created my own preparation ritual. First, I would drink a glass of pure water, not just to hydrate my body, but as a conscious act of purification. Water is the element of cleansing and receptivity, and drinking it mindfully helps shift your consciousness from sleep state to spiritual awareness. Then I would wash my face and hands with cool water, again, not just for physical cleanliness, but as a symbolic washing away of yesterday's accumulations. The difference was immediate and dramatic. My meditation deepened instantly. It was as if these simple acts of preparation sent a signal to my subconscious mind that something sacred was about to happen. Your consciousness responds to ritual and symbolism in ways that bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the soul. But the most important aspect of preparation is setting your physical space. During my 3rd week, I designated a specific corner of my room as my sacred space. I would light a candle, perhaps burn some incense, and sit in the same spot every morning. This consistency created what I call a spiritual momentum field, a place where repeated practice had built up a tangible energy of peace and receptivity. Your body and mind crave consistency, especially during the early morning hours when your nervous system is transitioning from sleep to waking consciousness. When you prepare your space with intention and care, you're creating optimal conditions for spiritual communion. It's like tuning an instrument before a concert. The music that emerges will be infinitely more beautiful when everything is properly aligned. Second pillar, Conscious breathing, the bridge between worlds. The second pillar is conscious breathing, and this is where most Western practitioners miss the deeper understanding that Eastern traditions have preserved for thousands of years. We think of breathing as something automatic, something our body does without our involvement. But the ancient yogis discovered that breath is the bridge between conscious and unconscious, between individual and universal, between human and divine. During Brahma Muhurta, your breath naturally slows down and deepens compared to other times of day. Your nervous system is in a unique state of receptivity, and specific breathing techniques can dramatically amplify your spiritual awareness. This isn't just about relaxation, although that certainly happens. It's about using breath as a vehicle for consciousness itself. The technique that transformed my practice is called Nadi Shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. You use your thumb to close your right nostril and breathe in through your left nostril for a count of 4. Then you close both nostrils for a count of 2, release your thumb and close your left nostril with your ring finger, then breathe out through your right nostril for a count of 4. You continue this pattern for 5 to 10 minutes. What makes this practice so powerful during the early morning hours is that it balances the subtle energy channels in your body. The left nostril connects to the parasympathetic nervous system and the right brain, associated with intuition and spiritual awareness. The right nostril connects to the sympathetic nervous system and left brain, associated with activity and analytical thinking. By consciously balancing these energies, you create optimal conditions for transcendent consciousness to emerge. After just 3 days of incorporating this breathing practice, I noticed a profound shift in the quality of my meditation. My mind would settle into stillness much more quickly, and I could maintain that stillness for longer periods. More importantly, I began experiencing what the texts call pranayama siddhi, the spontaneous arising of deeper breathing patterns that seem to happen by themselves. But here's what really changed my understanding of breathwork. On day 12, during my morning practice, I experienced what I can only describe as breathing with the universe itself. My individual breath synchronized with some larger rhythm, as if I was participating in the cosmic breath that sustains all life. For perhaps 15 minutes, there was no sense of me breathing, just breathing happening through pure awareness. This is why breathwork is such an essential pillar of early morning practice. When your consciousness is naturally expanded during Brahma Muhurta, conscious breathing can carry you into states of unity consciousness that would be nearly impossible to access during ordinary waking hours. Third pillar, meditation, the art of divine listening. The third pillar is meditation, but not the kind of meditation most people practice. During the sacred hours, meditation isn't about concentration or trying to empty your mind of thoughts. It's about becoming so receptive that divine consciousness can commune with you directly. It's the art of listening with your entire being to the subtle intelligence that's always speaking to you but is usually drowned out by mental noise. I spent years practicing concentration-based meditation, focusing on mantras or visualizations, trying to force my mind into spiritual states. It was exhausting and largely ineffective. But during my 21-day experiment, I discovered what the ancient traditions call receptive meditation. The practice of becoming so still and open that wisdom can flow through you naturally. The key is understanding that during Brahma Muhurta, you don't need to create spiritual experiences. You need to get out of the way and let them unfold. Your consciousness is already naturally expanded during these hours. Your job isn't to add anything, it's to remove the obstacles to what's already trying to emerge. Here's the specific technique that revolutionized my practice. After completing my breathing exercises, I would sit comfortably with my spine straight and simply listen. Not listening for sounds, though I would notice the natural sounds around me, but listening with my entire consciousness for the subtle presence that's always there beneath thoughts and sensations. The first few days, nothing seemed to happen. My mind would wander. I'd get caught up in planning my day or reviewing yesterday's events. But I learned to treat these mental movements like clouds passing through a vast sky. I wouldn't fight them or try to stop them. I would simply notice them and return my attention to listening. By day 8, something remarkable began happening. Periods of complete mental stillness would spontaneously arise, sometimes lasting 5 or 10 minutes. During these times, I wasn't unconscious or spaced out. I was more awake than I'd ever been. It was as if I was experiencing pure awareness itself, consciousness without any content. But the real breakthrough came during week 3. I began receiving what I can only call direct spiritual guidance. Not voices or visions, but clear knowings that would arise from the depths of silence. Insights about my life purpose, understanding about relationships, wisdom about challenges I was facing, all of this would emerge spontaneously during meditation. Not as thoughts, but as direct knowing. This is what meditation during the sacred hours can become. Not a practice you do, but a state of communion you enter. When your individual consciousness becomes still enough, universal consciousness can express itself through you. You become a vessel for divine wisdom to flow into the world. Fourth pillar, intention and visualization, planting seeds in fertile consciousness. The fourth pillar is the most misunderstood and potentially the most powerful. During Brahma Muhurta, your subconscious mind is extraordinarily receptive to new programming. This is when intention setting and visualization can literally reshape your reality from the inside out. But it's not about forcing outcomes or trying to manipulate the universe. It's about aligning your personal will with divine will and allowing transformation to happen naturally. Most people approach visualization like they're trying to control reality through mental effort. They strain and force, trying to picture detailed scenarios of what they want to manifest, usually ending up frustrated when their mental movies don't seem to create the changes they're hoping for. But during the sacred hours, visualization works completely differently. Your consciousness is so expanded and receptive that even gentle intentions can take root and grow into reality with surprising speed. The technique I discovered during my experiment is what I call heart-centered visioning. After my meditation, while my consciousness was still expanded and peaceful, I would place my hand on my heart and gently bring to mind the highest vision for my life. Not specific material goals or ego desires, but the deepest calling of my soul, how I wanted to serve, how I wanted to grow, how I wanted to contribute to the healing of the world. I wouldn't strain to create detailed mental pictures. Instead, I would feel into the essence of what I was called to become and allow images to arise naturally. Sometimes I would see myself teaching or writing, sometimes serving others in ways I couldn't yet imagine. The key was approaching this process with complete surrender, offering my personal will to divine will, and trusting that whatever was meant to unfold would unfold in perfect timing. The results were beyond anything I could have planned with my rational mind. By week 2 of my practice, opportunities began appearing that were perfectly aligned with my deepest intentions, but came in forms I never would have expected. A chance encounter led to a writing opportunity. An old friend reached out with an invitation to teach. Projects I'd been struggling with suddenly resolved themselves effortlessly. But here's what I learned about intention during the sacred hours. It's not about getting what you want. It's about becoming receptive to what wants to emerge through you. When you align with cosmic intelligence during Brahma Muhurta, you're not imposing your personal agenda on the universe. You're discovering what the universe wants to create through your unique gifts and allowing yourself to become a conscious co-creator in that process. These 4 pillars work together synergistically. Preparation creates the container, breathing opens the channel, meditation clears the space, and intention plants the seeds. When you practice all 4 consistently during the sacred hours, you're not just maintaining a spiritual routine, you're participating in the conscious evolution of your own soul. But understanding these practices is only the beginning. What happens when you consistently align with cosmic rhythm in this way goes far beyond personal transformation. The universe itself begins responding to you differently, and that's where the real magic happens. What happened next in my 21-day journey was so remarkable that I almost didn't believe it myself. And if I hadn't experienced it firsthand, I probably would have dismissed it as wishful thinking or coincidence. But when you consistently align your personal rhythm with cosmic rhythm, something extraordinary occurs. You begin operating according to entirely different laws than most people experience. There are 2 ways people navigate through life. Most people live according to what I call effort-based reality. They push and struggle, trying to force outcomes through willpower and strategy, often feeling like they're swimming upstream against an invisible current. But there's another way of living that most people never discover. It's what happens when you align so completely with the natural flow of cosmic intelligence that opportunities, insights, and synchronicities begin appearing in your life with stunning regularity. The difference? One group is fighting against the current of existence, while the other has learned to flow with it. Getting this wrong means you'll spend your entire life working twice as hard for half the results, wondering why success feels so difficult and why other people seem to have all the luck. But understand how magnetism works in spiritual practice, and you'll discover that the universe is actually conspiring to support your highest unfoldment in ways you never imagined possible. It all comes down to the law of attraction, but not the watered-down version most people have heard about. I'm talking about the real spiritual science of magnetism, how consciousness itself becomes an attracting force when it's aligned with cosmic intelligence. During Brahma Muhurta practice, something happens to your energetic field that makes you literally magnetic to the people, opportunities, and experiences that serve your soul's evolution. The science of spiritual magnetism. Here's something that will probably surprise you. Modern physics has actually proven what ancient mystics have taught for thousands of years. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond your physical body. This field carries information about your emotional and mental state, and other people unconsciously respond to this field even before you speak a word. During my second week of 4 a.m. practice, I started noticing that people were responding to me differently. Strangers would smile more readily, conversations flowed more naturally, and opportunities seemed to find me instead of me having to chase after them. At first, I thought it was just my imagination or perhaps increased confidence from maintaining the discipline of early rising. But then something happened on day 11 that made me understand what was really going on. I was in a coffee shop, and while I was waiting in line, the person behind me struck up a conversation. Within 5 minutes, he was telling me about a project he was working on and asking if I'd be interested in collaborating. This wasn't someone I knew or had any previous connection with. He was simply drawn to engage with me for reasons he couldn't explain. Later that day, I remembered something I'd read about the electromagnetic field of the heart. When you're in a state of coherence, when your heart rhythm is smooth and ordered rather than chaotic, your electromagnetic field becomes more powerful and more coherent. And coherent fields naturally attract and organize the energy around them. This is exactly what was happening during my morning practice. Those 2 hours of deep meditation, conscious breathing, and heart-centered intention were creating unprecedented levels of heart coherence. I was literally walking through the world with a more organized, more powerful electromagnetic field, and people were unconsciously drawn to that coherence. Real examples of universal synchronicity. Let me share some specific examples of what started happening, because the pattern was so consistent that it couldn't possibly be coincidence. On day 13, I had been contemplating a particular direction for my teaching work during my morning meditation. I wasn't trying to figure it out mentally, I was simply holding the question in my heart and listening for guidance. That afternoon, I received an email from someone I hadn't heard from in over 2 years. She was organizing a retreat and wondered if I'd be interested in leading a workshop on exactly the topic I'd been contemplating that morning. The timing was perfect, the location was ideal, and the theme aligned perfectly with where I felt called to direct my energy. 3 days later, I was walking through a bookstore when a particular book practically jumped off the shelf into my hands. I wasn't looking for anything specific, I was just browsing. But as I opened the book to a random page, I found myself reading exactly the information I needed to understand a spiritual principle I'd been struggling with for months. By day 18, these synchronicities were happening daily. Phone calls would come at exactly the right moment with exactly the right information. People would mention resources that address questions I'd been pondering. Solutions to practical problems would appear without me having to search for them. But here's what made me realize this wasn't just good luck. The synchronicities were always in perfect alignment with my highest good and the highest good of everyone involved. They weren't random coincidences. They were intelligent orchestrations of circumstances that served the evolution of consciousness itself. The difference between forcing and allowing. The most profound shift during my experiment was learning the difference between forcing outcomes and allowing them to unfold naturally. For most of my life, I'd approached goals and desires from a place of effort and control. I would make plans, create strategies, and push hard to make things happen according to my personal timeline. But something about the daily practice of surrendering my personal will to divine will during morning meditation began changing how I moved through the world. Instead of forcing my agenda on situations, I started asking, what wants to emerge here? How can I best serve what's trying to happen? This shift in approach created space for the universe to work through me in ways that my limited perspective never could have planned. On day 16, I had what I can only describe as a direct experience of being lived by life itself. Instead of feeling like I was making decisions and taking actions, it felt like decisions were making themselves through me, and actions were arising spontaneously from a deeper intelligence. The practical results were extraordinary. Projects that I'd been struggling with for months suddenly resolved themselves effortlessly. Relationships that had been strained began healing naturally. Creative inspiration flowed freely instead of feeling forced or contrived. But the inner transformation was even more significant than the outer changes. The constant undercurrent of anxiety about whether things would work out disappeared completely. It was replaced by what I can only call divine trust, a bone-deep knowing that life is intelligently orchestrated and that my job is simply to show up fully and allow myself to be used for whatever purpose I'm meant to serve. Becoming a conscious co-creator. By the end of 21 days, I understood something profound about how reality actually works. We're not separate individuals trying to manipulate an unconscious universe. We're individualized expressions of cosmic intelligence. And when we align with that intelligence through consistent spiritual practice, we become conscious co-creators in the unfoldment of divine purpose. This isn't about getting what you want. It's about discovering what wants to happen through you and allowing yourself to become a clear channel for that unfoldment. When you practice during Brahma Muhurta consistently, you're not just improving your personal life. You're actually participating in the conscious evolution of humanity itself. Every morning that you choose to wake up during the sacred hours and commune with divine consciousness, you're adding your individual awareness to the collective awakening that's happening on our planet. You're helping to tip the balance from unconscious living to conscious living, from separation to unity, from fear to love. The magnetism that develops through this practice isn't personal magnetism, it's the magnetism of aligned purpose. You become attractive to the people and opportunities that serve the highest good because you've made yourself available to be used by the intelligence that's orchestrating the evolution of consciousness itself. But maintaining this level of alignment beyond the initial 21 days requires a deeper understanding of how to sustain spiritual practice over the long term. Because transformation isn't a destination, it's an ongoing process of conscious evolution that can deepen and expand for your entire lifetime. Here's what nobody tells you about spiritual transformation, and it's probably the most important thing I'll share in this entire video. The initial breakthrough is actually the easy part. Those first 21 days, riding the wave of inspiration and novelty, pushing through resistance with determination, that's just the beginning. The real work, the work that determines whether temporary change becomes permanent transformation, happens in the months and years that follow. There are two types of people who complete a 21-day spiritual practice. One group treats it like a spiritual sprint. They push hard for 3 weeks, experience some wonderful changes, and then gradually drift back to their old patterns, telling themselves they'll restart when life gets less busy. The other group understands something crucial about how consciousness evolution actually works. They know that the initial transformation is like planting a garden. It's not enough to plant the seeds. You have to tend them with consistent care if you want them to grow into something magnificent. Getting this wrong means you'll spend your life experiencing temporary spiritual highs, followed by long periods of feeling disconnected from your deeper purpose. You'll keep starting new practices, always hoping the next technique or teaching will be the one that finally sticks. But understand how to sustain spiritual transformation, and you'll discover that every day becomes an opportunity to deepen your connection with divine consciousness. It all comes down to shifting from discipline-based practice to love-based practice. During the initial 21 days, willpower and determination carry you forward. But for long-term sustainability, the practice has to transform from something you make yourself do into something you can't imagine not doing. Seasonal rhythms and natural flexibility. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to sustain spiritual practice is treating it like a rigid formula that never changes. They think that if waking up at 4 a.m. worked during their initial experiment, they should wake up at exactly 4 a.m. every single day for the rest of their lives, regardless of seasons, life circumstances, or natural rhythms. But this approach completely misses the deeper wisdom of living in alignment with cosmic intelligence. The universe itself operates in cycles: daily cycles, lunar cycles, seasonal cycles, longer cosmic cycles. If you're truly aligning with cosmic rhythm, your practice needs to flow with these natural variations rather than fighting against them. During my first winter after the initial experiment, I learned this lesson in a profound way. I was trying to maintain the exact same 4 a.m. schedule, even as the days grew shorter and darker. My body was naturally wanting more sleep during the winter months, but I was forcing myself to wake up at the same time, thinking that any deviation from the formula would mean I was losing spiritual discipline. By December, I was exhausted and resistant. The practice that had felt like coming home during the summer was beginning to feel like a burden. That's when I remembered something I'd read about the ancient rishis. They adjusted their spiritual practices according to the seasons, understanding that consciousness itself flows differently throughout the year. So I began experimenting with seasonal adjustments. During the winter months, I allowed myself to wake up 30 to 45 minutes later, honoring my body's natural need for more rest during the darker season. But I maintained the same quality of practice. The preparation, the breathing, the meditation, the intention setting. What I discovered was remarkable. The practice remained just as powerful, sometimes even more so, because I was working with natural rhythms instead of against them. During spring and summer, when the days are longer and the life force energy is naturally more active, I would sometimes wake up even earlier than 4 a.m., feeling called to greet the dawn and align with the expanding energy of the season. The key insight was that spiritual practice isn't about following a rigid external schedule. It's about attentiveness to the subtle rhythms of consciousness and responding with intelligent flexibility. Dealing with resistance and setbacks. Now, let me be completely honest with you about what long-term practice actually looks like, because most spiritual teachers won't tell you this. Even after you've experienced profound transformation, there will be days when you don't want to get up early. There will be weeks when life gets complicated and your practice feels scattered. There will be periods when you question whether any of this spiritual stuff is real, or if you're just deluding yourself. This is completely normal, and it doesn't mean you're failing or that the practice isn't working. It means you're human, and consciousness evolution happens in spirals, not straight lines. The key is learning to work with resistance skillfully instead of letting it derail your entire spiritual journey. During my 6th month of practice, I went through what I call the dark night of the soul, part 2. Everything that had felt so clear and inspiring during the initial 21 days suddenly felt mechanical and empty. I was waking up early, going through the motions of my practice, but not feeling any connection to divine consciousness. For about 3 weeks, I seriously considered abandoning the whole thing. What I learned during this period was invaluable. Sometimes resistance isn't something to push through. It's information about how your practice needs to evolve. My morning routine had become too formulaic, too mental. I was doing the practices correctly, but I'd lost the heart connection that made them alive. So I simplified everything. Instead of following my elaborate routine, I would just sit in silence and listen. Sometimes I would cry, releasing emotions I'd been carrying without realizing it. Sometimes I would just breathe and feel grateful for being alive. Gradually, the connection returned, but it was deeper and more authentic than before. The setbacks, I realized, weren't obstacles to spiritual growth. They were actually part of the growth process itself. Each time resistance arose and I learned to work with it skillfully, my practice became more genuine and less dependent on external conditions. Evolution of practice over time. Here's something beautiful that happens when you sustain spiritual practice over months and years. The practice begins to practice itself through you. What starts as conscious discipline gradually becomes unconscious wisdom. The qualities you cultivate during your formal morning practice, peace, clarity, compassion, trust, begin expressing themselves naturally throughout your day without any effort on your part. After my first year of consistent practice, I noticed that meditation wasn't something I did for an hour in the morning. It was a background state of awareness that remained present even during busy activities. The boundary between spiritual practice and ordinary life had dissolved. Everything had become an opportunity for communion with divine consciousness. My morning routine evolved organically during this time. Sometimes I would spend more time in silent meditation, sometimes more time with breath work. Sometimes I would read sacred texts or engage in contemplative prayer. The specific techniques mattered less than the quality of presence I brought to whatever I was doing. I also began receiving what I can only call direct spiritual guidance about how to modify my practice. Insights would arise during meditation about new techniques to explore or ways to deepen my understanding. It was as if the practice was teaching me how to practice, revealing its own secrets as I became ready to receive them. Signs of deepening spiritual unfoldment. So, how do you know if your practice is actually working over the long term? Because the changes become so gradual and natural that it's easy to lose track of your own transformation. Let me share some of the signs I've observed in myself and others who've maintained consistent early morning practice over years. The first sign is what I call unshakable peace. This doesn't mean you never feel emotions or face challenges. It means there's a foundation of stillness beneath all the surface movements of life. Problems arise and get resolved. Emotions come and go. But underneath it all is a bedrock of peace that nothing can disturb. The second sign is spontaneous compassion. You stop having to remind yourself to be kind or patient. These qualities just naturally express themselves through you. You find yourself responding to difficult people and situations from a place of understanding rather than reactivity, not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because that's genuinely how you see life now. The third sign is what mystics call divine providence. The experience that life is taking care of you in ways that go beyond what you could orchestrate through personal effort. Needs get met, guidance appears when you need it, and challenges resolve themselves often in ways that are better than anything you could have planned. The fourth sign is increasing simplicity. As spiritual understanding deepens, life becomes less complicated, not more. You naturally gravitate toward what serves your soul's evolution and lose interest in activities and relationships that drain your energy or pull you away from your center. The fifth sign, and perhaps the most significant, is the recognition that your individual spiritual practice is part of something much larger than personal transformation. You begin to understand viscerally that your morning communion with divine consciousness is contributing to the awakening of all life. Your practice becomes an act of service to the evolution of consciousness itself, making the temporary eternal. The ultimate goal of sustaining spiritual practice isn't to maintain a morning routine indefinitely. It's to become so aligned with cosmic intelligence that every moment of your life becomes an expression of divine consciousness. The early morning hours serve as a training ground where you learn to recognize and align with your deepest nature. But eventually, that alignment becomes so natural that it's present whether you're meditating at dawn or washing dishes in the evening. This is what the great spiritual masters have always taught, that awakening isn't a special state you achieve during formal practice. It's the recognition of what you've always been beneath all the conditioning and unconscious patterns. The morning practice simply creates optimal conditions for this recognition to dawn and stabilize. After 3 years of consistent practice, I can honestly say that the person who started this journey and the person I am now are barely recognizable as the same individual. Not because I've become someone different, but because I've remembered who I've always been. The practice didn't create a new self. It revealed the eternal self that was always present but obscured by layers of unconscious living. And this brings us to perhaps the most important point of all. Your individual transformation isn't happening in isolation. As you awaken to your true nature through consistent spiritual practice, you're actually participating in a global shift in consciousness that's affecting all of humanity. What I'm about to share with you is bigger than personal transformation, bigger than individual spiritual growth, bigger than any one person's journey of awakening. We're living through the most significant shift in human consciousness that's occurred in thousands of years, and your decision to wake up at 4 a.m. and commune with divine consciousness isn't just changing your life, it's contributing to the evolution of our entire species. There are 2 ways to understand what's happening on our planet right now. Most people see the chaos, the conflict, the challenges facing humanity, and conclude that we're moving toward collapse or destruction. But there's another perspective available to those who've developed spiritual perception through consistent practice. From this deeper view, what appears to be breakdown is actually breakthrough, the birth pangs of a new level of human consciousness that's struggling to emerge. Missing this larger context means you'll experience your spiritual practice as primarily personal, focused on improving your own life and solving your own problems. But when you understand the cosmic significance of this historical moment, your practice becomes an act of planetary service. You're not just waking up for your own transformation, you're waking up to help awaken all of humanity. It all comes down to what scientists call critical mass and mystics call the 100th monkey effect. When enough individuals in any system reach a new level of consciousness, that consciousness spontaneously spreads to the entire system, often in ways that seem miraculous to outside observers. The ripple effect of individual practice. Here's something that most people don't realize about consciousness. It's not contained within the boundaries of your individual mind and body. Modern physics has proven what ancient wisdom traditions have always taught. Consciousness is a field phenomenon, like electromagnetic energy, that extends far beyond any individual and influences everything within its range. When you practice during Brahma Muhurta consistently, you're not just transforming your own awareness, you're contributing to what researchers call the morphic field of awakened consciousness. Every morning that you choose to align with cosmic intelligence, you're making it slightly easier for every other person on the planet to access that same level of awareness. I experienced this principle dramatically during my second year of practice. I was visiting my family for the holidays, staying in the house where I grew up. My parents and siblings had no knowledge of my spiritual practices and were somewhat skeptical of what they saw as my New Age phase. But something remarkable happened during that week-long visit. Without any discussion about meditation or consciousness, the entire household atmosphere shifted. Conversations became deeper and more authentic. Old family tensions dissolved naturally. My teenage nephew, who had been struggling with anxiety and depression, seemed noticeably calmer and more centered. Even my practical, skeptical father commented that there was something peaceful about the house that week. I realized I was experiencing the ripple effect of consistent spiritual practice. The field of coherence I'd been cultivating through months of early morning communion was naturally influencing everyone within its range. I wasn't trying to change anyone or share any teachings. Simply being in a state of aligned consciousness was creating space for others to access their own deeper peace. This experience helped me understand something profound about how consciousness evolution actually occurs. It's not primarily through teaching or convincing or even inspiring others, though those can play a role. It's through embodying the change you want to see in the world so completely that your very presence becomes an invitation for others to remember their own true nature. Why personal discipline becomes universal compassion. During my third year of practice, I began to understand why the great spiritual traditions have always emphasized that personal awakening and service to others are not separate paths. They're different aspects of the same movement of consciousness. When you consistently align with divine intelligence through spiritual practice, you naturally begin to care about the well-being of all life, not as a moral obligation, but as a spontaneous expression of your expanded awareness. This shift happened so gradually that I almost didn't notice it at first. I found myself naturally drawn to activities and relationships that served the greater good. Career decisions that had previously been based on personal advancement or financial gain started being guided by questions like, how can I best serve the evolution of consciousness? And what wants to emerge through my unique gifts for the benefit of all? But the most significant change was in how I related to other people's suffering and ignorance. Instead of feeling frustrated or judgmental when I encountered unconscious behavior, I began to feel profound compassion for the pain that creates such behavior. I could see that everyone is doing the best they can from their current level of awareness, and that consciousness evolves not through force or criticism, but through love and patient understanding. This compassion wasn't something I had to cultivate through effort. It arose naturally as my sense of separate self dissolved through years of consistent spiritual practice. When you regularly experience your individual consciousness merging with universal consciousness during morning meditation, you can't help but recognize that the person struggling with addiction, the politician acting from fear, the family member trapped in old patterns, they're all expressions of the same cosmic intelligence that you are, simply experiencing temporary forgetfulness of their true nature. Your role in planetary consciousness evolution. Now, you might be thinking, Yogananda, this sounds beautiful, but what does it actually mean for me practically? How does my individual morning practice really make a difference in global consciousness? And this is exactly the right question, because understanding your role in this larger transformation is what will sustain your practice through the inevitable challenges and plateaus of long-term spiritual development. Every morning that you choose to wake up during Brahma Muhurta and commune with divine consciousness, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. You're saying yes to love over fear, unity over separation, wisdom over ignorance, peace over conflict. And in the quantum field of consciousness, these votes matter more than you might imagine. Scientists studying complex systems have discovered that it often takes only a small percentage of individuals changing their behavior to trigger a transformation in the entire system. In consciousness research, this threshold appears to be somewhere around 1% of the population. We're not talking about converting everyone to a particular spiritual practice or belief system. We're talking about reaching a critical mass of people who are consistently accessing and embodying higher states of consciousness. Consider what this means practically. If just 1% of humanity, about 75 million people, were to establish consistent practices that align them with cosmic intelligence, the ripple effects could trigger a spontaneous awakening in human consciousness that would resolve many of the challenges facing our planet. Wars that seem intractable could resolve through sudden shifts in understanding. Environmental problems could find solutions through insights arising from expanded awareness. Social inequalities could dissolve as more people recognize the fundamental unity underlying apparent differences. This isn't naive optimism. It's based on the same principles that govern all evolutionary leaps in complex systems. And your individual practice, however small it might seem, is one of the essential components of reaching this critical mass. The responsibility of awakened living. With this understanding comes a profound sense of responsibility, but not the heavy, burdensome kind of responsibility that the ego creates. This is the joyful responsibility of conscious participation in the most significant transformation in human history. When you truly understand that your spiritual practice is contributing to the liberation of all beings from suffering and ignorance, maintaining that practice becomes not just personally beneficial, but a sacred duty to life itself. During my 4th year of consistent morning practice, I had what I can only describe as a direct vision of humanity's potential. During a particularly deep meditation, I experienced a future timeline where enough individuals had awakened to their true nature that war, poverty, and environmental destruction had become impossible. Not because of external regulations or controls, but because the consciousness that creates these problems had evolved beyond them. In this vision, I could see that each person practicing spiritual discipline with sincere dedication was like a single cell in the awakening body of humanity. Just as individual cells contribute to the health and functioning of the entire organism, each awakened individual contributes essential energy to the collective evolution of human consciousness. This vision wasn't a fantasy or wishful thinking. It was a direct perception of what becomes possible when consciousness operates from its highest potential instead of its most limited expressions. And it made clear that we're living at the most crucial moment in human history, when the choices we make about our own consciousness development will determine the trajectory of our species for generations to come. The single candle principle. The ancient proverb says that it's better to light a single candle than to curse the darkness, but I think this wisdom goes deeper than most people realize. When you light a candle in a dark room, the light doesn't struggle to push away the darkness. The darkness simply ceases to exist in the presence of. Your consistent spiritual practice during the sacred hours isn't fighting against unconsciousness. It's establishing a field of awakened awareness that naturally dissolves the conditions that create suffering and conflict. Every morning that you choose love over fear, unity over separation, wisdom over ignorance, you're lighting a candle that illuminates not just your own life, but contributes to the collective awakening of humanity. And here's the beautiful thing about consciousness. Unlike physical resources, it multiplies when shared. When you awaken to your true nature, you don't have less consciousness available. You actually enhance the consciousness available to everyone around you. One person living from authentic spiritual awareness can positively influence hundreds or thousands of others simply through their presence and example. This is why the great spiritual masters throughout history have often worked with relatively small groups of students while creating ripple effects that transformed entire civilizations. They understood that consciousness change happens from the inside out, one individual at a time, until a critical mass is reached and transformation becomes spontaneous and widespread. Your decision to wake up at 4 a.m. for 21 days isn't just a personal experiment. It's your contribution to the most important project humanity has ever undertaken. The conscious evolution of our species, from fear-based living to love-based living, from separation consciousness to unity consciousness, from ego-driven behavior to soul-inspired action. The universe has been waiting for this moment in human history for thousands of years, and it's been waiting for you to remember who you really are and step into your role as a conscious agent of transformation. Every morning that you choose to align with cosmic intelligence during Brahma Muhurta, you're answering that call and participating in the birth of a new earth where spiritual wisdom guides human activity. But the journey we've taken together today is just the beginning. The real adventure starts when you actually implement what you've learned and discover for yourself the transformation that becomes possible when you align your individual rhythm with cosmic rhythm. My beloved friends, what we've explored today isn't just about waking up early, it's about waking up to your true nature. The universe doesn't respond to our demands, it responds to our alignment. When we synchronize our daily rhythm with cosmic rhythm, we stop swimming against the current of life and begin flowing with divine intelligence itself. The 21 days taught me that transformation isn't about forcing change, it's about creating the conditions where natural unfoldment can occur. From the sacred science of Brahma Muhurta to the 3 waves of transformation, from the 4 pillars of practice to the magnetism of aligned living, from sustaining the sacred to participating in the consciousness revolution, every element we've discussed points to the same fundamental truth. You are not separate from the cosmic intelligence that governs all creation. Your individual consciousness is a wave in the ocean of universal consciousness. And when you remember this through consistent spiritual practice, miracles become natural. The synchronicities that began appearing in my life, the opportunities that manifested seemingly out of nowhere, the profound peace that became my constant companion, these weren't special gifts reserved for a chosen few. They're the natural inheritance of anyone who chooses to live in alignment with their deepest nature. The only difference between a life of struggle and a life of grace is whether you're working with cosmic intelligence or against it. I invite you to join me in this sacred experiment. For the next 7 days, just 7 days, set your alarm for 4 a.m. Don't worry about having the perfect morning routine. Simply sit in silence, breathe consciously, and listen to the wisdom that emerges when the world is still. Notice what changes in your consciousness, your energy, your relationship with life itself. The universe is waiting to reveal its secrets to you. You need only create the space to receive them. Pay attention to the small synchronicities that begin appearing. Notice how your intuition sharpens. Observe how challenges that once seemed overwhelming start resolving themselves naturally. Watch how people respond to you differently as your electromagnetic field becomes more coherent through consistent practice. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence that you're beginning to operate according to the laws of consciousness rather than the laws of struggle. Remember, every morning that you choose to wake up during the sacred hours, you're not just transforming your own life, you're contributing to the awakening of all humanity. You're adding your individual awareness to the critical mass of consciousness that's working to birth a new level of human civilization based on wisdom rather than ignorance, love rather than fear, unity rather than separation. But here's what I haven't told you yet. There's a specific meditation technique that amplifies the power of early morning practice by 1000%. It's an ancient Kriya that most spiritual teachers keep hidden. But in my next video, I'm going to share it with you completely. This technique transforms those sacred morning hours from simple meditation into direct communion with cosmic consciousness. It's the secret that masters have used for thousands of years to accelerate their spiritual evolution and manifest their highest purpose. If you're ready to go beyond basic spiritual practice and enter the realm of genuine spiritual awakening, click the video appearing on your screen right now. This Kriya will take everything you've learned today and multiply its power exponentially. You'll discover how to activate specific energy centers in your body, how to breathe in ways that directly stimulate spiritual consciousness, and how to use sound and visualization to create a direct pathway to cosmic awareness. Your soul is calling you to remember who you truly are, an eternal being of infinite love and wisdom temporarily experiencing life in human form. The 21-day experiment is your invitation to remember this truth, not just intellectually, but viscerally, in every cell of your being. Don't keep your soul waiting any longer. Click now and discover the ancient secret that will transform your morning practice into a direct pathway to enlightenment. The universe has been preparing you for this moment your entire life. Everything you've experienced, every challenge you've faced, every moment of longing for something deeper, it's all been leading you to this choice. Will you continue living according to the limited patterns of unconscious existence? Or will you step into your true power as a conscious co-creator with cosmic intelligence? The choice is yours, but know this: the time for spiritual awakening is now. The earth needs conscious beings who remember their true nature. Humanity needs way showers who demonstrate what becomes possible when individual will aligns with divine will. And you need the deep fulfillment that comes only from living your highest purpose. Wake up at 4 a.m. for 21 days. Transform your life. Help transform the world. Your deepest self is waiting. Beloved soul, there is a quiet mystery that stirs when the world lies deep in slumber. When even the night birds have ceased their songs and the air hangs still, untouched by the weight of human footsteps. Many of you have awakened during this silent hour, your eyes opening unexpectedly between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning. You may have wondered why sleep abandoned you, why your body, weary from the day, would suddenly rise as if summoned by an unseen hand. Some have felt fear, believing it to be unnatural, while others have dismissed it as a quirk of restless nerves or unbalanced routine. But I say to you now, with the vision given to me by the Infinite, these moments are not accidents of biology nor errors of the mind. This stirring of wakefulness is the whisper of your soul, a gentle but undeniable pull of spirit, calling you back to divine remembrance before the noise of the world claims your attention again. When the earth is dark and silent, the mind's ceaseless chatter softens, the subconscious tides grow still, and the vast spaces of the inner kingdom begin to open like a lotus greeting the hidden moon. It is at this hour that the veil between the mortal senses and divine perception grows thin. The spirit, which often cannot be heard amidst the clamor of daylight pursuits, seeks to commune with you in the silence of pre-dawn stillness. The ancient yogis knew of this sacred window and called it Brahma Muhurtathe, hour of God, when the currents of divine energy flow most freely and the human soul is most receptive to higher truths. Imagine for a moment that you are lying in bed while the entire world sleeps, and suddenly, without reason, your eyes open. You feel no particular fear, yet a strange restlessness moves within you, like a breeze stirring the leaves of an unseen garden. This is not a disturbance of the nerves, it is a stirring of spirit, an unseen call from the infinite beloved who longs for you to awaken, not only from nightly slumber, but from the dream of separation itself. It is as though your higher self is gently shaking you, saying, "Come, my child, while the world sleeps, awaken to the silent music of God. Let us speak in the stillness before the burdens of the day scatter your thoughts." This is the hour when cosmic energy, freed from the distractions of human activity, flows unimpeded across the subtle planes. The divine masters walk closer to the earth during these hours, and angels of light send currents of blessing to every open heart. Those who awaken naturally during this time are being drawn into a sacred dialogue they may not yet understand. It is not a sign of illness or imbalance, beloved. It is an invitation from the eternal to rise beyond the prison of restless dreams and touch the quiet flame of your own soul. Beloved one, let us now journey deeper into this divine mystery and understand why these hours, between 3 and 5 in the morning, hold such profound spiritual significance. Across the ages and in every corner of the earth, saints, sages, and mystics have recognized this sacred window as a gateway into higher consciousness. The yogis of India, guided by divine intuition, called it Brahma Muhurtalatarali, meaning the time of God. This is not poetry but a precise spiritual science. For in these pre-dawn hours, the rhythms of nature and the currents of cosmic energy align in ways that gently lift the soul toward divine remembrance. The world, beloved, is quieter at this time. The minds of countless beings are still immersed in deep sleep, and thus the vibrations of human thought, which create a dense cloud of restlessness throughout the day, are subdued. The psychic noise of the world is lessened, and into that silence flows the subtle breath of spirit. The air itself carries a rare purity, and the magnetic forces of the earth harmonize with the upward currents of divine energy moving through your own spine. This is why yogic scripture declares that meditation and prayer at this hour bear fruits 100 times more potent than efforts made later in the day. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of the yogi who rises before dawn to merge with God in silent union. Christian mystics, too, spoke of the vigil hours, when prayer pierced the veil more swiftly, when the soul could hear the whisper of the Holy Spirit. Even Christ himself, seeking refuge from the demands of multitudes, would withdraw into solitude during these still hours to pray and commune with the Father. When you awaken naturally during these hours, it is often because your soul is attuned to this higher rhythm of spirit. The subtle body, your astral sheath, grows restless when it feels the cosmic tide rising, urging you to step away from unconscious sleep and enter a different kind of awakening. Think of it as a divine summons, a spiritual alarm clock not set by human hands but by the eternal calling you home. The mind may label it insomnia, but the soul knows it as an invitation to divine intimacy. Beloved, understand that this moment is precious beyond measure. It is as if the gates of heaven are slightly ajar, and from beyond them spills a stream of golden light, ready to bathe your consciousness if you simply rise and step through. The unseen masters of wisdom, radiant with compassion, are more easily felt during these hours, for their vibrations resonate with the quiet stillness of pre-dawn. If you respond to this call with even the smallest gesture of devotion, sitting upright in bed, whispering God's name, or lifting your gaze to the spiritual eye, you will find that divine presence envelops you, filling your heart with a peace that no worldly sleep can provide. Thus, beloved, do not dismiss these awakenings as strange or troublesome. Know them for what they truly are: a sacred message from the universe, a gentle touch from the infinite beloved saying, "Awaken, my child, for I am near. Come to me now, while the world slumbers, and I shall reveal to you the silent treasures of your own soul." Beloved soul, having felt the subtle pull of spirit in the early hours, let us now uncover why the soul chooses this time to awaken you. Divine restlessness is not the agitation of the nervous system. It is the stirring of your eternal nature, gently nudging you to rise beyond the illusions of worldly sleep. Deep within, your soul knows it is not confined to this body or this fleeting dream of earthly existence. It longs to stretch its wings of light, to remember its boundless nature, and to return to the silent embrace of God. During the hours of 3 to 5 in the morning, when the density of the world has not yet risen with human activity, the inner call of spirit becomes louder, more insistent. It is as if your higher self is whispering, "You have wandered long enough in unconscious slumber. Now is the moment to remember who you truly are." Many dismiss this wakefulness as discomfort or sleeplessness, yet in truth, it is a spiritual summons, a chance to break free from the hypnosis of Maya, to sit quietly in the stillness and rediscover your divine essence. This restlessness can manifest in different ways. Some may feel their heart beating with unusual vigor, not from fear but from an unseen joy rising in the soul. Others may awaken with a mind unusually alert, clear as a morning sky, despite having slept only a few hours. Sometimes you may feel the presence of something greater near you, a subtle vibration, an invisible warmth, or the quiet assurance that you are not alone in that moment. These are signs that spirit is calling, that your soul seeks to commune with the infinite beyond the boundaries of the physical senses. Beloved, think of it as a knock upon the door of your consciousness. In the busyness of daily life, God's whispers often go unheard, drowned by the clamor of desires, duties, and distractions. But in these early hours, when silence reigns and the mind is less burdened, the divine finds it easier to reach you. The call may come softly, but it is a call to awaken spiritually, to turn inward and rediscover the vast ocean of peace lying dormant within you. If you heed this caliph, instead of tossing restlessly in bed, you rise, sit upright, and lift your gaze to the spiritual eye, you will find the restlessness transform into a serene joy. The breath slows naturally, the heart finds its rhythm in divine stillness, and the mind quiets like a lake without ripples. In that silence, beloved, you begin to feel God not as a distant idea but as a living presence moving through every fiber of your being. This is the purpose of the divine restlessness. It is your soul's gentle rebellion against forgetfulness. It refuses to remain buried under layers of habits and unconscious thought. It longs to awaken you to the reality that life is not meant merely for toil and sleep, for fleeting pleasures and passing sorrows, but for the profound joy of realizing that you are, and always have been, a radiant child of spirit. Beloved one, every awakening between the hours of 3 and 5 carries a divine message. Yet this message may not be the same for every soul. Spirit speaks in many ways, using the language of vibration, intuition, and subtle feeling. When you find yourself stirred from sleep during these sacred hours, pause and listen, for the soul is whispering to you through one of 3 divine messages. A. Message of cleansing, the soul's purification. For some, this early morning awakening is a process of inner cleansing. During deep sleep, the subconscious often begins to release karmic impressions and unresolved emotions that have long rested in the shadows of the mind. Between 3 and 5 in the morning, when the body's natural rhythms shift and spiritual energy flows most freely, this process intensifies. You may wake with tears in your eyes for no apparent reason, or with the feeling that something heavy has been lifted from your chest. Beloved, do not fear this. It is not illness nor random turmoil. It is divine healinga, sacred fire gently burning away lifetimes of sorrow, regret, and limitation. Just as a fever purifies the body of toxins, divine energy purifies the astral body of karmic weights during these hours. If you experience this, sit quietly, breathe slowly, and with each exhalation whisper inwardly, "Beloved Spirit, cleanse me. I release all that is not light." Feel the heaviness dissolving, leaving you lighter, freer, and closer to God's presence. B. Message of calling, an invitation to communion. For others, this awakening is a divine calling to prayer or meditation. Your soul has grown thirsty for communion with Spirit, and at this sacred hour, the silence of dawn becomes the perfect temple in which to meet God. If you awaken feeling calm, alert, and gently drawn towards stillness, know that the Beloved is near, waiting for you to rise and enter His presence. In this state, do not return to restless tossing or distraction. Sit up, close your eyes, and lift your gaze to the spiritual eye. Whisper softly, "Divine friend, I am awake with thee." You may feel waves of peace washing over you, the breath slowing of its own accord, and a golden warmth surrounding your heart. This is the soul's reward for answering the call, a silent meeting with Spirit in the hour when heaven leans close to earth. C. Message of union, the presence of guides and masters. At times, this awakening is not only from your own soul but from the loving presence of spiritual guides or divine masters. They draw near in the early hours when your consciousness is more pliable, less entangled in the material world. Some experience vivid dreams of radiant beings. Others awaken with the unshakable feeling that someone holy has touched their spirit. These are not fantasies. Beloved, they are glimpses of the invisible support surrounding you. When this happens, simply close your eyes, offer a silent prayer of gratitude, and say inwardly, "Beloved Masters, I welcome thy guidance. Lead me ever toward thy light." In that moment, your soul harmonizes with higher forces that work tirelessly to guide you along the path of freedom and divine realization. Thus, beloved, every awakening during these hours is purposeful. Whether cleansing, calling, or union, it is Spirit's way of lifting you above the noise of mortal life and ushering you toward the sanctuary of divine presence. Beloved soul, now that you understand these messages from the divine, let us speak of how to respond when Spirit gently awakens you in the silent hours before dawn. It is not enough to merely recognize the call. Transformation comes when you consciously answer it. Imagine that the infinite is knocking softly at the door of your heart, and all of heaven waits to see if you will open it. Your response can either draw you into a profound spiritual experience, or let the moment pass like mist vanishing in the morning sun. The first step is gentle acceptance. When your eyes open at this sacred hour, do not rush into confusion or frustration about losing sleep. Instead, place your hands softly on your heart and think inwardly, "Beloved Spirit, I know you have awakened me." This act of recognition immediately lifts your vibration and aligns you with the divine intention of the moment. The mind begins to still, and you sense that you are not alone. Something higher is present, guiding you into communion. Next, rise slowly and sit upright with a straight spine. The body should become a living temple through which divine energy can flow freely. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders, and allow your breath to slow naturally. With every inhalation, imagine drawing golden light into your being. With every exhalation, silently release any lingering tension or anxiety. This breath becomes the bridge between you and spirit, carrying you away from earthly restlessness and into the serene waters of divine awareness. Now, lift your gaze to the spiritual eye, the point between your eyebrows. This is the doorway to higher consciousness, where divine light often reveals itself during these pre-dawn hours. Focus there softly, not with strain, but as though you are gazing into a distant sunrise. As you hold your awareness in this sacred center, begin to mentally chant or whisper softly the holy vibration of Aum, letting its resonance wash through your mind and heart. If you feel restless thoughts stirring, do not fight them. Watch them pass like clouds in the early sky, knowing that the boundless space of your soul remains untouched. Gradually, these clouds will fade, and a vast inner stillness will emerge, a stillness where God can finally be felt as a living, breathing presence. During this communion, speak to Spirit silently or aloud, not with complicated prayers, but with the simplicity of a child speaking to its eternal friend. Say, "Beloved Father, beloved Mother, infinite friend, I am awake with thee. Fill my soul with thy light. Guide me into thy joy." Remain in this state for as long as you are drawn to it. Even 10 minutes in such a sacred dialogue can uplift your entire being, setting a divine tone for the rest of your day. As dawn approaches and you return to your daily activities, carry this divine connection with you. Let every action, every word, every breath be infused with the memory of that silent meeting with Spirit. You have answered the wake-up call, beloved, and because of this, divine grace will accompany you in unseen ways, turning ordinary moments into opportunities for blessing and spiritual growth. This is how to respond when Spirit awakens you, not with fear or resistance, but with open-hearted willingness to commune with the infinite in the stillness of early morning, transforming a simple disturbance of sleep into a timeless encounter with divine presence. Beloved soul, the masters have always spoken of a sacred law. When the soul answers the gentle call of Spirit, heaven responds with blessings beyond measure. Paramahansa Yogananda revealed that those who listen during these pre-dawn hours are not merely practicing devotion. They are opening themselves to a divine current that can reshape their consciousness, heal karmic wounds, and awaken dormant spiritual powers that have lain silent for lifetimes. When you awaken between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning and respond with prayer or meditation, you enter into a direct communion with cosmic energy. In these quiet hours, Yogananda explained, the veil between the physical and spiritual realms is thinnest. Intuition becomes sharp, the heart feels more tenderly aligned with love, and divine guidance flows like a clear mountain stream. Masters and angels, who constantly watch over sincere seekers, draw nearer, blessing you with their light. Imagine, beloved, that each time you awaken and answer this call, it is like stepping onto a celestial path paved by the wisdom of saints and yogis who walked before you. The more often you respond, the clearer this path becomes, until eventually it shines brightly within your own soul, leading you unerringly toward God realization. In those moments of stillness, miracles quietly unfold. Old fears begin to lose their power, unresolved griefs soften and release, and divine joy rises like dawn, casting golden rays into every shadow of your mind and heart. Yogananda often said that soul awakening is not achieved by chance but by magnetic readiness. The very fact that you are stirred awake during these sacred hours shows that Spirit sees in you a readiness to rise higher, to walk closer to the divine embrace. If you cultivate this gift with reverence, meeting the dawn with prayer, meditating while the world slumbers, you create a powerful spiritual magnet that attracts peace, wisdom, and grace into every aspect of your life. As days turn into months, you may notice subtle yet profound transformations. Decisions that once caused confusion become guided by an inner knowing. Relationships that carried heaviness are infused with forgiveness and light. Challenges that once brought despair are faced with calm courage, as though unseen hands are gently carrying you through. These are not coincidences. They are signs of Yogananda's promise fulfilled, that when you listen to the call of Spirit during the Brahma Muhurta, divine blessings will flow freely, reshaping not only your dawns but your destiny itself. Beloved, the divine does not awaken you in vain. If you will answer this call, even imperfectly, even with a single whispered prayer or a moment of silent gratitude, know that heaven hears and responds. Every early awakening becomes a rung on the spiritual ladder, lifting you step by step toward a life where divine presence is not felt only in rare moments, but in every breath, every glance, every heartbeat. Let this promise sink deeply into your soul. When you rise to meet God in the silent hours of dawn, God rises within you, transforming your life into a living temple of eternal light. Beloved, as our journey together in this sacred message draws to its gentle close, let us gather everything that has been revealed and weave it into a single living truth. You are not being awakened by chance. The silent hours between 3 and 5 are not accidents of sleep. They are divine invitations whispered by Spirit, calling you back to your eternal home. Each awakening is an unseen hand knocking softly on the door of your heart, urging you to remember your forgotten divinity, to rise from the slumber of forgetfulness, and to walk in the light of higher consciousness. When you next find yourself stirred from sleep in these pre-dawn hours, let not confusion or frustration claim you. Instead, sit quietly, breathe slowly, and remember, I am being called by my beloved. Whisper a simple prayer, no elaborate words are needed. With a heart wide open, say, Lord, I am awake. Reveal thyself to me now. As you speak, feel that the golden dawn of divine presence is rising within you, filling every corner of your soul with peace, clarity, and joy that the world cannot give nor take away. I bless you now with this silent prayer. May every early awakening become a sacred temple where you meet your Creator. May your nights turn into gateways of light, may your mornings shine with wisdom, and may every day that follows carry the fragrance of divine remembrance. From this moment on, you no longer wake alone. Every stirring in the night is a cosmic dialogue, every breath a silent hymn of your eternal bond with Spirit. Beloved, as you carry this truth into your life, do not keep it hidden. Share your light with others who are restless in the dark, who wake in confusion not knowing they are being called. Teach them that these hours are holy, that God whispers more loudly when the world is quiet. In doing so, you become not only a seeker, but a messenger of divine remembrance, helping other souls awaken to their own sacred calling. Close your eyes now, breathe slowly, and let us seal this journey with a final affirmation. Inhale and silently think, I awaken in thy light. Hold the breath gently as though holding eternity itself, and exhale with the whisper, and I walk forever in thy joy. Repeat this until you feel divine stillness settle in your heart like a dawn that never ends. Go forth, radiant soul, knowing that from this day, each early stirring of your body is not a disturbance of rest but a holy moment of communion, where the eternal calls you home to the boundless light of Spirit.